Out of the gates, ready to go. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. Here we are, 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine, the Wednesday edition, which means it's a jam-packed show. Chad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. One of the best color combinations we've ever put together today, Hutton.
Well done.
I never know what it's going to look like till I look up at that monitor and see our shirts next to each other. Far and away, one of the better color combinations we've ever come
We'll
up
have to keep
with.
this in mind. We also need confirmation from everyone in studio to give us a thumbs
No one
up.
will give us any confirmation. This studio loves to just stay silent whenever we say anything
They're
about ourselves. It's good.
And that's fair.
Just complete silence.
I appreciate their honesty.
Yeah.
The honest assessment of the NFL draft coming your way in 20 minutes. Dan Z from OutKick.com will join us. He's put together all the mocks throughout the draft process. We will compare notes on what we thought teams did or would do versus what they did. Looking forward to that. Primary complaint. We air our top grievance of the week every Wednesday, 45 minutes from right now. Former San Francisco 49ers head coach, longtime defensive coordinator, and the current head coach of the Michigan Panthers in the USFL is Mike Nolan. He will be on today's show in hour number 2, plus Bobby Carpenter and Clay Travis in hour 3. Chad, the NBA, I've watched the last 2 nights, and I've been thoroughly entertained. That's surprise number 1 for me. Appointment viewing, we've got 2 series going on right now that I believe are. And Lakers, Warriors in Game 1, where LA steals Game 1 against Golden State in a performance from AD, where Davis goes for 30 points, 20 rebounds, 4 blocked shots. LeBron puts in his share, 22 points, 10 or 11 rebounds. They survive what was a furious comeback by the Warriors, a 14-0 run late in the fourth, and then you have Russell who hits the great layup to break that streak, and then they never relinquished the lead after, a minute and a half left in the fourth quarter. I know that we said this about the Sacramento Kings whenever the Kings got the Warriors early in the series. But this Lakers team, Chad, to me, is a team that can win it. They woke up. I think the one good thing Dylan Brooks did in the last series, because he didn't speak to the media, he didn't live up to the trash talk or the hype. He averaged 11 points in this year. He woke up that team. But the team was already on a roll. They needed a little kick, and Brooks provided that for that entire roster, not just LeBron. They've got a little swag to them now, and they've won 15 of their last 19 games. And they've done it in a quiet way going into the play-in games. And now they've got a 1-0 series lead against the Warriors where Golden State, again, feels the pressure. Maybe we see another great performance from Steph Curry and company. And that can be the case. But this is a Lakers team that I've slept on. Like, I have not figured out what the problem was. But throughout the season, we have seen their management group put together pieces to the puzzle, and now they're healthy, certainly well rested with load management, and now they've got the 2 best players currently going where LeBron can take over, and you've also got Anthony Davis, who has been tremendous throughout the playoffs and seems to be really hitting a stride now. He was unstoppable last night.
It felt monumental, this win last night. There was something about it that I had mentioned yesterday. This was the start of the playoffs to me, was the start of this series, that it really got going with this one. And it felt with the Lakers going in and winning Game 1 on the road the way they did, it felt maybe bigger than it actually was. You know, we also have to keep in mind the Warriors trailed 0-2 the previous series. The Lakers trailed 0-1. So both, I mean, it's one game. Both can come back in a 7-game, or either one could have come back in a 7-game series. But I'm with you on this. It felt different, that win last night for the Lakers, to go on the road, to win the way they did, for LeBron to step up the scoring a bit where it's been down. Mm-hmm. Felt big. It felt big. It may not be. It may just be the feelings of watching just a clash of the Titans in this one. But it felt maybe bigger than it actually will be.
I don't think the Lakers lose this series if Davis continues to play at this level. He doesn't have to reach the bar he set last night, because the bar he set last night has only been matched previously. The last time we saw 30 points, 20 rebounds, and the blocked shots was Shaquille O'Neal, back whenever they were facing the Sacramento Kings with the Lakers. Davis put that in last night. He can carry this team. He can take over any NBA game he wants to. He's been up and down, though. You know, there's quiet nights from Davis back against the Grizzlies, but then after a quiet night, he wakes up and has a phenomenal performance. He didn't wait in this series, and if he's got full throttle now, they're not going to lose to the Warriors despite what Steph Curry can do. He can take over, but the consistency that I've seen comes from inside with Davis.
I'm rooting for a long series.
Me too.
Anything less than 6 games will be a huge disappointment.
This is great for the NBA because we're talking about what's happening on the court, and it involves LeBron and Steph, right? And certainly the ratings are going to reflect that. There's also the New York Knicks who are back in the postseason, Chad, and they're winning games.
Yeah, I think the Knicks are starting to prove that they're one of the legitimate needle movers in the NBA. That there are teams in every major sport that you can say when this team is good, the sport is better. You know, I think of Duke basketball. I think of Notre Dame football. I think of the Yankees, the Dodgers, the New York Knicks, I believe, are one of those teams. The Lakers, Celtics, certainly two of them as well. But when America's largest market has their top basketball attraction at the top of their game and in the Final Four of the Eastern Conference, in the semifinals, and you get Madison Square Garden at full tilt, it is different. There is a different sound of that organ playing and that noise in that building for big-time NBA playoff games. It takes me back to the 90s and Patrick Ewing and John Starks. Speaking of John Starks, he's front and center courtside last night, riling the crowd up. Terrific stuff in that game in Madison Square Garden. Really enjoyed watching the Knicks and watching the Heat in that game. Back and forth in the end, the Knicks go on a big run, I think a 15-3 run at one point in the fourth quarter to take over and win that game to a must-win for them. Could not handle falling behind 0-2 at home at Madison Square Garden.
Especially
Aaron
with Butler
Rodgers
out.
front row, absolutely. Aaron Rodgers front row, Jessica Alba front row. You've got Spike Lee also, prancing around on the sidelines the whole time as the sort of the Madison Square Garden court jester. I loved it. I'm not a Knicks guy, never have been. I was a Bulls guy in the 90s. That's the team I wanted to see destroy the New York Knicks. But even watching those Bulls-Knicks series back in the day, or Knicks Magic, or when the Knicks made it to the finals against the Rockets, that building in late spring, early summer, in the NBA playoffs, when their team is good, is unlike any other venue in America. It's terrific. Last night proved that once again. And I'm watching and thinking, not only these NBA playoffs, but this NBA is far better when the New York Knicks are relevant. And they're relevant again. Jalen Brunson is awesome.
Outstanding.
Julius Randle, awesome to watch. This is a fun team. I want to see them keep it going.
Josh Hart in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. I want to see this group get to an Eastern Conference Finals. There's great stories. We're going to talk about Joel Embiid, but on the other side also with the Sixers, Celtics, this is shaping up to could be a pretty star-studded in terms of franchise Eastern Conference Finals that we're going to witness.
Yep. And then we could see the one seed in Denver trying to rise up and take a series against either L.A. or Golden State.
Not ready to count Phoenix out yet, though, now that they're going home. Down 0-2, they're going home.
Chris Paul hurt?
That's going to hurt. If they lose and go down 0-3, obviously. Yeah. They get a nice long break, too. They don't play until Friday night.
Yeah, there's some long break coming up.
That's a really long, it's almost a week. They're going to take off to get to – apparently, it's, they're going by horseback from Denver to Phoenix. So it's a really long and arduous commute to get back home.
Stop for some golf in between as well.
They're going to stop in Tombstone, Arizona on the way.
So last night, the Knicks get a game without Butler playing. You have, and by the way, Jimmy Butler at the end of the series, the last go around, where he scored 90+ points in 2 games to close out that one.
That dude is such a silent killer, and that his game is not that loud.
Yeah.
But you look up and he's dominating.
Yeah, dominating and putting out the 1 seed with the Bucks and doing it in, as Chad said, dominant fashion. Meanwhile, last night you've got the Lakers who survived that 14-point comeback by Golden State. They still game 1, and Philadelphia, they stole game 1 against Boston, despite not having Joel Embiid in the lineup. The MVP. After 2 straight years of finishing runner-up, Joel Embiid is, by far, based on the votes, the most valuable player in the NBA for 2023. He in 2022-23, 73 of a possible 100 first-place votes went to Embiid. And it's a year where he's averaged 33 points per game, 11 rebounds, over 55% from the floor. They get him back, Chad, and they're winning this series, and we could see Philly on their way to the NBA Finals.
I think a Philly-Lakers Finals would be pretty compelling if that's the way it works out.
Or Golden State.
Yeah, one of those two. But, no, it's a terrific story.
We will not include Dillon Brooks or the Memphis Grizzlies in the discussion. Of course, the Lakers putting them out. And the report is the Grizzlies have told Dillon Brooks that, hey, we're not bringing you back under any circumstance. Now, that is a report. That's not a direct quote from the organization. But when that report was out yesterday, everyone's like, oh, of course. I mean, you're going to be a distraction. You're going to talk all this trash, then not face the media when you don't live up to the hype and you not just lose the series, but don't show up after the fact when you call out LeBron James and the Lakers. And, you know, the Grizzlies are reportedly saying, hey, we're done with it. We're getting past this distraction. You can buy into Ja Morant because he's one of the greats in the league right now. You invest in that player and you hope he gets better off the court. Meanwhile, in Dillon Brooks, not just us, even Shaquille O'Neal is saying, yeah, good luck elsewhere, not in Memphis.
And then he didn't play well enough to be acting like that. So now he's either going to be out the league or he's going to have to check himself before he wreck himself.
Out the league? You will go as far as say out the league?
Who going to sign him?
Dang, I don't know.
I mean, don't you think somebody's going to take a look at him?
He's not athletic. He ain't jumping out the gym. And his jumper ain't like that.
That man done talked himself out the league?
His jumper ain't like that. And it happens.
Now, he won't be out of the league based on his defense, Chad, but he'll be out of the league if he keeps, you know, acting like he's one of the greats and then doesn't back it up and then doesn't answer for it while his teammates stand at the podium or talk to the media and answer for him on the road as they lose the series.
Arguing that he's not going to be playing in the NBA seems extreme to me from Shaq. But immediately the jokes about him going to China to play with Stephon Marbury, I thought those were pretty crazy, you know, to see that, oh, seriously? This guy's not going to have a job anywhere in the NBA? I understand not in Memphis. He's going to catch on somewhere. It would be a very NFL thing of the NBA to not sign him at all. And what I mean by that is I would buy that he's out of the league if he was an NFL player. If he was sort of a middling guy that was, you know, Dillon Brooks is only 27 years old.
Yeah.
But let's say he was an aging player, middling at that point, and was seen as a huge distraction and a cancerous player in a locker room. I could see the NFL saying, yeah, we're done with you collectively and not getting another job because the last thing they want is any sort of distraction. I don't think the NBA would go that route. There's going to be someone who can say, he can bring something to us
with the right team
and we can
coach.
Get him to shut up at least enough.
Yep.
You don't want to
with the right leadership.
You don't want to take away the personality that makes him whatever he is, but I just think
I'm entertained by it.
This whole personality backfired on him. Like he wasn't ready to try to play after saying those things.
The best thing that could have happened, Chad, I realize the ratings are going to be through the roof for Lakers Warriors. The best thing that could have happened is Dillon Brooks actually backs up the talk in that series. And we see a new team rise up and you become entrenched in whatever. And they can play the villain, and they do it very well. But they've also they've embraced that to an extent over the 6 years he was there in Memphis. Yeah. And if he backs up the talk, then you don't have to answer. You don't have all the questions to all the other teammates answering questions about what Brooks did and said and why he's not available. You know, and it's just a different vibe going in. The only reason he's not coming back to Memphis, per the report, it's not because of his antics. It's because of the distraction. But it's not a distraction if you go in and win. And with the right team, how many players have done worse than what we've seen from Dillon Brooks? I mean, just think of the 90s alone.
A ton.
And with the right team, they are a difference maker.
Yeah, and a big part of this is the reverence for LeBron James in that league.
Yeah,
and rightfully so. I mean, these guys are playing at a time where they're playing with the all-time leading scorer in NBA history. There should be some – you should bow at the king's throne a bit. You don't have to just go around worshiping the guy at all times. But
the fact that someone stepped up to the
someone went out of their way It's Dylan Brooks. It'd be one thing if Giannis said, you know what, this guy's old. I can take him.
Right.
My time is now. His time is over. Well, Giannis isn't losing his job with the Milwaukee Bucks, even if his team doesn't back him when he says that. Dylan Brooks is not the guy. This is not the one who should be, trying to retire LeBron James and talking all this mess
Instead
to
of
him.
I'm him, it's I'm not him.
So it was wrong player at the wrong time that led to the wrong result that gets him out of Memphis. But I'll say this again about Memphis. They're a part of this problem. I mean, you can't sit here and pretend that they don't have some issues within that team. And John Morant, their superstar, is the top one with this tumultuous season that he's had. And even last season and this past offseason with all of the incidents. So I get it. It's the right move for Memphis. I'm also not going to sit here and act like, the Memphis Grizzlies team led by John Morant and their front office is some bastion of everything that's holy and right in the NBA. And their culture is impeccable. They're like the Spurs with Tim Duncan. And anyone that speaks out against that or does anything out of line, they're going to get cut. That's not the Memphis Grizzlies. They're mad because this guy opened his mouth with a 1-0 lead, and they got shut up really quickly. And they think that's a big part of it. That's why they're mad. That's why he's not, under any circumstances, according to the Shams Charania quote, will he be back with the Grizzlies? Under no circumstances.
But we don't know who said that. It could be another agent, right? I don't think it's from his camp. Certainly.
Well, the Grizzlies aren't denying it. Now, they're going to have a press conference at some point and may be asked about it, and they may be able to clarify that. But I'm not seeing a lot of backtracking from anyone with the organization.
We're seeing a refresh of the numbers for the recent Super Bowl, where the Super Bowl on Fox is now the most watched Super Bowl in the history of the league. The Chiefs' comeback win over the Eagles, 38-35. It averaged 115.1 million viewers across Fox and Fox Deportes and the digital streaming services. Nielsen had some discrepancy with how they were measuring the out-of-home viewers. And they recognized this, went back in, and they've updated it. Previously, the game, it averaged, I believe, 113. So they've put up, now it's averaged 115.1. And that makes it the largest audience to watch the Super Bowl.
And I don't know how Bomani Jones and Dominique Foxworth will spin this, but it was against a multiracial quarterback and a black quarterback in that game. So there you go. Apparently Americans not as racist as some would believe.
And $7 million per 30 seconds for ad sales in that game.
It was a good night for Fox.
It was.
I'm guessing.
Coming up, Dan Z joins us.
I've heard. I don't know. I don't have the financials
draft
in front of me, Hutton, but I'm guessing it was a good night for Fox.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have the Super Bowl on your network, which, by the way, it's Nance and Romo next year, that's why they want them to get along.
Yeah. There'll be another intervention happening at Tony Romo's favorite country club coming up this offseason.
Night for them as well, calling the country club, calling the Super Bowl next year. Who will be in this? Which rookie will be in the Super Bowl this upcoming season? Dan Z joins us.
I can tell you who it won't be.
We're about to recap our thoughts.
Dan Z will disagree with me, but I can tell you who it won't be.
Big takes from the NFL Draft. That's next on Hot Mic.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number one pet peeve, telemarketers. Number two pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number three pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number four pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up with littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back, and if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
Hot Mic rolls on across the OutKick network. 6th and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hutton and Withrow with you, joined by Dan Z, OutKick.com, who has had all the coverage from the lead up to the NFL draft. And appropriately, we have him on today to recap what we saw this past weekend and look forward to the expectations for some of these guys. Dan, great work throughout the entire offseason with this. And now the true offseason begins as we know where guys landed.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for not bringing up the mock draft specifically, though, because that was a
Well,
bloodbath.
But so I mean, Mel Kiper got one right, only one in the first round.
Yeah.
And the unpredictable aspect
that's what makes it a good draft, though, to me.
I think
is
so.
That, like, it wasn't. That's what makes it eventful, is that you couldn't slot the players exactly with the team, and it was unpredictable.
That was really the only thing that we could predict right, is the fact that we didn't really know anything about how this thing was going to go, and it really started with Houston.
Yeah, and that's what we said. I mean, I joined you guys that week and said that we're going to know a lot about this draft really early, and we did. And it was completely unexpected that Houston traded up to pick second and third. And then after that, I mean, man, I'm glad I the one thing I started every interview with was like, look, I did a mock draft, but I have no idea what's going to happen. And that proved out to be true.
Did the Gibbs selection surprise you the most, or was it like early where Houston actually went with Stroud and then traded back up to get Will Anderson? Which was the, what just happened here moment for you in the draft?
I mean, it was definitely Houston. I actually wasn't that shocked that the Lions took Gibbs. I'll call that a half a win. Pretty much in every mock I did, I had the Lions taking a running back. What I don't understand about the pick, though, is if they really wanted a running back, they should have stayed at 6 and just taken Bijan. I thought Gibbs was a reach at 12. Like I said, I wasn't surprised at all. I think I talked to you guys about the Lions being a team that would look to take a running back. Thought they could have gotten Gibbs with their second pick at 18. Could have possibly traded back from that spot to get him. And I think that is an issue that teams have in the NFL draft, is falling in love with one player or even a position, especially a non-premium position. I'll tell you a team that did well falling in love with a position, but did okay with it, was the Pittsburgh Steelers. There were 4 offensive tackles in this draft that were worthy of a first-round pick, and 3 of them were gone, and the 4th one was going to go to the Jets with the next pick. So the Steelers had to make a move. Falling in love with running back and then reaching a bit at 12. Again, I don't love the pick, but it wasn't shocking to me. Houston trading up to 3 was absolutely shocking.
Well, and Chad, we talked about this on Monday or Tuesday where you have an appreciation for the history of the league, right? That's how you judge whether or not this guy loves the ball.
Yeah.
Jahmyr Gibbs opens his presser by saying his favorite player ever was Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders' last season was 1998, and Jahmyr Gibbs was born in 2002. That resonates in Detroit.
Yes, and I'm hoping that's legitimate, not just an agent talk that told him to say that about Barry Sanders. But I always look for the guys who know the league and know players from even before they were alive and can reference them because they've studied them. That's how you know they really love it.
He said that in the past.
Yeah.
And Barry Sanders was on hand to welcome him for his first official presser back in Detroit.
Dan, it does feel like the Detroit Lions are quickly becoming kind of America's second favorite team, right? I know they are for me because everyone's got their primary team, but the Lions have just been so terrible for so long, and their fan base is so miserable, and most people kind of like what they're doing now with this young team, and they like Dan Campbell. He's a little bit crazy. Are they on the precipice of something big here, or can you see this leading to just the Lions being the Lions once again?
No, I think they're definitely leading towards something, and it's something I talked about, why I thought they might target a running back. It's a position of luxury for a team that already has a pretty good roster, which the Lions have. What I'll say to people who are making the Lions their second favorite team, though, is be careful what you wish for, because there was a time when we felt sorry for the Patriots, and then this guy named Tom Brady came along, and suddenly they won 6 Super Bowls, right? 6, 7, I don't know, whatever. A lot of Super Bowls. But that was the thing with the Patriots, if you remember, before they had their run, was like, oh, it's a snake-bitten team. They can't ever win anything. And then all of a sudden it happened. I'm absolutely not suggesting the Detroit Lions are about to become the newest force in the NFL. And I thought they had a really interesting draft. I think Gibbs was a reach. I think Campbell was a bit of a reach. They probably could have even waited for him in the second round, but I loved the pick of Brian Branch. He was one of my favorite prospects in the entire draft, and I thought they got him incredible value to get him for a defense that certainly needs it. I thought the Hendon Hooker pick was solid. I mean, that's a smart pick for them. Hooker's a guy that probably isn't ready to start in the NFL yet, but he's a great, solid backup who could potentially be ready to start in a couple of years after Goff finishes his career. It was a fascinating draft for the Detroit Lions. I'll say that.
Another draft I think is getting some high marks, the New York Giants. What do you think about what they were able to accomplish? Got a couple guys even in the mid rounds that, some were projecting late first, second round, Jalen Hyatt being one of them.
Yeah.
What do you think overall about what the Giants were able to do after a really good first year for their new head coach?
I like what the Giants did because they didn't force it. I think everybody thought they needed a wide receiver, and they very easily, when the run started, could have, panicked, made a move up, tried desperately to get a guy, but they didn't do that. They sat and they waited. They grabbed cornerback Deontay Banks, a very good player, position of need for the team, rather than reaching. They got an interior offensive lineman in the second round, and they got Jalen Hyatt, a player who at times looked like he could be a late first, maybe second round pick. He falls to the third round, and I think he's a great addition to the team as well. They lack speed. That's what the Giants need more than anything. Jalen Hyatt brings plenty of that. They went out and got Darren Waller in free agency, a great receiver, but obviously he's a tight end. He's not a speed guy. No one on the outside for this team really has that stretch the field ability, and so they went out and got a guy who potentially could do that. I'd like to see them still probably try to get some more depth at wide receiver, but the draft didn't fall their way in that regard. So I will give them credit just for not panicking, not making a move out of desperation, and letting the draft come to them. I think a lot of teams could take note from that.
A trade that didn't happen was a team trading with Arizona at 3 for a quarterback. And I'm interested in this storyline moving forward because the boom or bust aspect of Anthony Richardson, where Indy, they're starting him from day one. Jim Irsay says he's the starter. They also didn't feel the need to move up. They weren't threatened at all. No one tried to give an offer that Arizona was willing to accept more than whatever they accepted for Will Anderson. And that's intriguing, given the fact that Indy is so sold on the fact that they can develop him into the ceiling, which is the highest of this crop, but he also has the lowest floor. And I say that because they're saying that, admitting that it's going to be ugly this upcoming season as they continue to try to get and mold the quarterback the way they want him to play.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of a surprise for a lot of people as well, that Richardson was the guy at 4. I mean, he was obviously the guy they wanted. It would have been really interesting had Houston not taken Stroud, if that had come into play for Indy at all. I don't know their process. They might have been into Stroud as well. I don't hate it because, I mean, you're taking the guy at 4, and like you guys are saying, like everybody knows, the ceiling, we haven't really seen a player like Anthony Richardson. You could compare him to like a Lamar Jackson or a Michael Vick, but everything he did at the combine is, as far as athletically, better than those two.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson's had success in the NFL. Michael Vick had some bouts of success. It wasn't, the toughest part about being a guy who relies as a quarterback on high athleticism is, health factor. It's a huge deal. We have yet to see a guy, even Lamar has had his injury problems, Kyler Murray, guys like that who rely heavily on athleticism have struggled to stay healthy, but they're good seasons. Lamar Jackson, a good, healthy season, he was an MVP. And if that's what they think Anthony Richardson can be, maybe he only needs to deliver one of those seasons, and maybe the Colts win a Super Bowl because Anthony Richardson had one incredible season, and that might be the only one they get from him. But you can't tell me that wouldn't be worth it. If you told the Colts, hey, you're going to win one Super Bowl with Anthony Richardson and the rest of the season you're going to miss the playoffs, I think they would take it. And I think that's kind of what they're shooting for here.
Yeah, and I mean, him backing up for a year would be ideal for him to develop. The whole story of they admitted, hey, we were worried about Tennessee moving up. They thought that Tennessee would move up and draft Stroud at 3 if he went by Houston at 2. They were not concerned at all about Anthony Richardson being drafted off the board, but he was their guy. And this is the boomer bust of round 1, Chad, is the percentage chances that they hit on him. And we went through it. Like if the 3 of the first 4 picks, usually one guy pans out, and Indy is certain it's this guy.
Well, Will Levis is the guy they passed on. That reports where they loved him. Will Levis, everybody in the first round passed on him. He goes to the Titans at 33. Dan, do you think that he ends up almost in a weird way in a better spot with the Titans, given that he's going to have probably a year to sit and learn and then have an opportunity?
1,000%. 1,000%. I think this draft, and I wrote a piece basically titled, "When the Embarrassment Wears Off, Will Levis is going to be thankful with the way that the 2023 NFL draft went for him personally." I think he goes to a great spot, a good organization, good coach. He gets to learn behind Ryan Tannehill, who is kind of a similar player to him, who is athletic, big arm, struggles at time with consistency. I mean, it's literally a younger version of Ryan Tannehill, except Levis has found the one guy who's a little less polished than he was. I mean, Ryan Tannehill was a converted wide receiver who was learning how to play quarterback at the NFL level. So Levis has a little bit of a jump there. But also, yes, and this is something I said about Richardson early in the process as well, that his ascension from a late first round pick to this top 5 guy might overall be a negative for him, because getting drafted later in the first round to a team that's better suited, that has a quarterback in place, might be a better situation. Whereas you guys mentioned, I mean, he's the guy from day one, and he's not ready. He's not ready. I think, I mean, he probably wouldn't say that because he's an extremely confident young man. And I like everything that Richardson said along the process. And, for all intents and purposes, he seems like a guy who can lead a franchise, but it's going to be a rough first year. And we've seen what rough 1.5 years, Zach Wilson's confidence was completely destroyed. And now there's questions about whether or not he can play quarterback in the NFL. And I think a lot of times we don't take this into account. We always put it on the player. It's just that player wasn't good enough. I'm not convinced that if Zach Wilson weren't drafted 25th to a different team and got a chance to sit for a year, that he wouldn't be a quality NFL starter right now. I think sometimes going to the wrong team in the wrong spot, being thrust in immediately, can ruin quarterbacks especially. So, it's up to the Colts to do everything they can to make this rookie season as soft a landing spot as they can. Just the question is, how soft can they really make it?
The Seahawks draft 2 immediate starters. They go with Witherspoon early at 5, and then the first receiver off the board at 20 is Jackson Smith-Njigba, who joins Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. And Njigba played the slot mostly at Ohio State. How happy is Geno Smith? Is he the happiest quarterback based on the draft results?
Yeah, no question. Not only didn't Seattle take a quarterback, which they could have done, they used all of their picks for the most part to help the team win now. I think Seattle surprised, obviously, not I think, they definitely surprised a lot of people last year with the season that they had. So they're obviously closer to contention than anyone thought. And they added to that team. The questionable pick for the Seahawks that really didn't make a lot of sense was taking a running back with their second round pick. They drafted Kenneth Walker last year. I think that's a spot that they really could have used to improve the team. I mean, he's a guy who can help next year, talking about Charbonnet from the UCLA, but it just doesn't make sense. Again, it's a non-premium position for a team that really didn't need a player in that position. So other than that, I mean, like you guys said, they took who they thought was the best cornerback in the draft. I could quibble with that, but there were 4 guys, I think, who were first round picks, and they got one of them. I like Jackson Smith-Njigba a lot. Think he's the best wide receiver in the class. They agreed, so they got the best at that position as well. They got an outside linebacker early in the second round to help their defense. I like almost everything Seattle did, except that nagging pick of the running back in the second round just bumps me a little bit.
Dan, it's tough to get universal agreement on almost anything with the NFL draft, but I feel like we're pretty close to that with people loving the Philadelphia Eagles draft once again. Building off their NFC championship, going with the 2 Georgia defenders in the first round. What did you make overall of their draft? Do you agree with everyone who says this Eagles team crushed it once again?
It just depends on Jalen Carter, man. It just does. He ended up falling to 9, which there were talks in the lead up, Jalen Carter, if you watch the odds, his odds kind of jumped to maybe go 3, 4, 5, but those teams all passed on him. So those red flags certainly played a factor in where he ended up. And I think that's still a big question. I mean, yeah, it's easy to look at their draft and go, they drafted. I mean, look, Jalen Carter is extremely talented. Nolan Smith is extremely talented. I like both of them as football players. And, building from the Georgia defense, obviously that's worked out pretty well in Georgia, but it's all going to come down to what ends up happening with Jalen Carter. And we just don't know. And I think the fact that he did end up falling to 9, probably was going to fall to 10 where the Eagles were picking initially. And that was kind of what he said before the draft. The Eagles kind of nudge told him, we're going to take you. The fact that no one else took him, no one else jumped up to take him, it would make me a little bit nervous for a guy who was a possible number 1 overall pick before all of the news started rolling in that he did end up falling that far. So, obviously the Eagles are comfortable. It's a good situation, goes to a good coaching staff, an excellent organization. All that matters. But we'll see. They're a tough one. It's easy to say, yes, they did great because they drafted 2 incredible athletes in the first round and then filled out the back end of the roster later. But it all depends on what happens with Jalen Carter, and we'll see.
And they get Swift in this too. Speaking of Georgia, for pennies on the dollar. They only owe him like 1-point-something million this year remaining on his contract, and they get him for a very 7th-round pick, I believe, from Detroit, who just wanted to get rid of him.
Yeah, pretty low risk. I mean, DeAndre Swift hasn't been a very efficient running back in his career, which is probably why Detroit was looking to get rid of him. He should be fine in Philadelphia. I mean, again, like a solid pickup, nothing. I wasn't that excited about the pickup, though. I'll say that.
And cheap, though, very low risk. It's
exactly.
A play, in Detroit, I know they were harping on the fact that he wouldn't play if he was hurt or injured. And if he was hurt, he was acting like he was injured. They wanted him to play tougher. And that ends being the case where they move on from him with Jahmyr Gibbs.
Talking Eagles, by the way, just makes you think about the Georgia Bulldogs because that's basically their entire team now, which makes me think about Stetson Bennett going in the 4th round, which, Dan, that was one of the biggest shocks. I'm watching on Saturday and see him off the board, and I'm thinking 4th round for Stetson Bennett. What do you think Sean McVay is thinking with going that high for the Georgia quarterback?
I think the Rams were thinking we've got 14 draft picks, so why not?
Roll the dice.
Look at their board. Yeah, I mean, you look at their board. They took. I'm trying to do the math on my head. It looks like about 12, 14 players, something like that.
They had a lot.
Yeah, it's a 4th round quarterback. I mean, Belichick took a kicker in the 4th round. I mean, I guess I don't have strong feelings on it. If they like Stetson and they're comfortable with where he's at, I mean, when you take a guy in the 4th round, you're not necessarily expecting him to do that much for you. Maybe he develops into a starter. Maybe he doesn't. Either way, he didn't lose much. He's a winner. Bringing him in to learn from Stafford. I was surprised that he went as high as he did, but I also wasn't. If that makes any sense. I know it doesn't.
I wonder with the late round quarterbacks how much Brock Purdy had an effect on these teams.
Oh, he sure did.
Yeah, I mean, Sean Clifford was drafted.
Yes.
And I think that is a Brock Purdy effect on other organizations that say, hey, let's get a guy in here who rates well in certain categories and see if he can lead an offense on an injury-riddled season and win a couple games.
I saw a funny tweet, and I won't steal it and take credit for it, although I don't know who it was. But I saw a tweet that said, if you're planning on taking the next Brock Purdy in the 6th round, you better be getting the next Kyle Shanahan with your 7th round pick.
Dan Z
great point.
Gets it done at OutKick.com. Great work, man. We always enjoy your visits, and hopefully we'll have you back on soon.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, there's Dan Z. Again, you can follow him on social there on the screen and check out all of the work at OutKick.com from him and all of the great writers on site. Chad, Aaron Rodgers, he's stunned. He's stunned because, you mentioned the Knicks. Jessica Alba's there, right? Sauce Gardner admitted to him that he had no idea who she was.
Well, that's a generational problem. That's what I'm hearing there.
And the responses are, I bet he knows now.
Well, that is Aaron Rodgers closer to our generation and Sauce Gardner of a different generation that does not understand the beauty that is Jessica Alba.
I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs knows Barry Sanders.
Fantastic, by the way.
And
I showed you a picture of her at the game. She looks like she did in 2003 when she came on the scene for the first time. 20 years ago. Looks amazing.
Ageless.
Just, really good.
Coming up,
really
primary complaint. We are
Two words,
top
really
grievance
good.
of the week next on Hot Mic.
You know what? Sometimes as we begin tonight's epic series of icon Steph Curry against icon LeBron James with street clothes Anthony Davis, we sometimes forget that Steph Curry is in the conversation of greatest of all time. We usually do. We forget that. We just kind of take him for granted, I think, and we shouldn't. This dude just dropped 50 in a playoff Game 7. First time that has ever happened. And I want you to think about this for just a second. First time that has ever happened in the NBA, in a Game 7. Now, with all due respect, there's a lot of great basketball players in and around the NBA, a lot of great scorers over the years, a lot of iconic players like Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I'm talking about scorers now. Larry Bird, Michael Jordan, hell, Alex English, George Gervin. I mean, dudes that back in the day, David Thompson used to go get 60 occasionally. And not one guy ever, not ever, scored 50 in a Game 7 until Steph Curry came along. It's really unbelievable. He's 35 years old. You've never heard anything out of Steph Curry other than family and team and humble and willing to help. I think it's time we give him at least a little more accolades for everything around him. All right, stock up, LeBron James. Now, LeBron James is one of those guys that's trying hard. He wants to be more than he wants to be, or more than an athlete, and that's great. And by all accounts, very good as an executive producer. His team, led by Maverick Carter, his guys, posse, whatever you want to call it, from his hometown, do a great job. He's had some missteps. The fake racial stuff on his walls in L.A. was ridiculous, and he's made some stupid racial comments. But you know what? He's out here trying. He's out here taking a swing. Seems to love his kids and his wife, although there is some speculation, as there always is going to be. But this dude, at his age, is ridiculous, and what he does on a nightly basis is absolutely absurd. And sometimes all we do is complain about LeBron James because, well, frankly, we get LeBron James stuffed down our throats every single day. It's called, in the world of ESPN and others, playing the hits. Used to be you had to talk about Brett Favre and LeBron James. Now you got to talk about Aaron Rodgers and LeBron James, or else you don't have a show. Throw in a little bit of Mark Cuban, throw in Jerry Jones, Mike McCarthy, and you've got 6 morning hours of ESPN television. That's just the way it works. We're enthralled. LeBron James, 38 years old, man, and he's still out here doing it. I feel like I've been watching LeBron James, if he's 38, for 23 years, since he's about 15 years old. He's done it under the world spotlight, and he's done it really, really well. 4 titles for him, 4 titles for Curry. Look, if one of them gets one this year, that puts him above the other, in my opinion. Nobody ever thinks that. We always compare Michael Jordan and LeBron James, but it might be time to start comparing Steph Curry to LeBron James. That's how good Steph Curry is.
OutKick Network, Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. Glad you're with us. 6th and Peabody, our location with EHA Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Taylor Swift's playing in town. 3 straight shows?
She's got sort of
it's packed
a little
here.
bit. It's like Garth Brooks light when Garth Brooks had the week-long concerts
but
here
this
in
is
Nashville.
a little bit different with 69,000 instead of 19.
20, yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit different.
It's good. It's amazing how many people are hitting downtown. OutKick is available on YouTube. Hope you'll subscribe to the channel. You can catch all the shows. And if you miss portions of shows, it's always on demand. And always on Wednesdays at this time, we air our top grievance with primary complaint.
It's time to air our top grievance of the week.
You can complain all you want.
My job is so unfulfilling.
Don't run away from your feelings.
It's time for Hot Mike's primary complaint.
Guys, my primary complaint this week, stocking shelves at the wrong times at supermarkets, grocery stores. They're already packed after 5 p.m. People getting off work, especially downtown, smaller stores as it is. And it's not like the product is not available on the shelf. They're adding like 3 or 4 more bags of chips and taking up the entire aisle. Please get back to stocking shelves overnight and just allowing the product to sell out before you have to restock. That way I can actually walk down the aisle instead of them taking up all the space and expecting me to go back around and come back the other way. That's my primary complaint.
I have a complaint centered around the service industry as well, but it's a different type of service, plumbing. I am a master of the compliment sandwich, so I understand it. You give a compliment, you give bad news, then you end it with a compliment in order
a college head coach.
Right, to put a pillow around whatever bad news you're giving someone. I like the plumber that visited my home today. Nice guy, salt of the earth. But when you come out to the house and you identify a problem, which is, in my house, I need a new faucet downstairs. Well, I've got to buy the faucet, okay? And then I'm going to call this guy back to come put the faucet in and make sure it's working properly, and I'll pay him for that. But when you tell me that you're going to charge me $170 for the trip out there, but hey, I'm going to cut you a break. I'm going to give you a real break here. I'm going to cut you some slack. And I'm not going to charge you for the part that I went home to get that you don't need. That's not really making me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. I sent you pictures of everything below the sink. You knew what was going on. We told you what the problem was. So because you went home to get a part that wasn't needed and you were even considering charging me for that trip home to get that part before you came to my house, that would have been a real problem. So don't think I take it as some sort of big moment of justice for my bottom line when you say, I'm really going to cut you some slack here and give you a break and not charge you for that trip home for the part you didn't need that I didn't fix today with your sink, not helping me out, and that is my primary complaint.
Guys, I'll make it 3 for 3 for the service industry. This past week, I'd been sick, and I knew a sinus infection this time of year with my allergies, typical. I just need an antibiotic, knock it out. So I wanted to use the telehealth service that a local clinic often has provided for me. So it's like, hey, just call them. They'll put me on with the provider, get me a prescription sent over to the pharmacy. We're good to go. I get this set up, get the call, I'm on the phone, and then they're like, wait, even though you've registered everything in Tennessee, says you're in Nashville, we're going to make it to where, 3 days ago, we've changed our policies to where we can't treat you unless you're in the state of Alabama. At that point, I'm not able to transfer that to an actual clinic that is in Middle Tennessee, let alone Nashville. And so then I have to do this all over again, but actually physically go into a clinic, see a provider, and then get the medicine needed.
Is it on like a restricted list of the medicine that's required?
No, it was just like a simple
antibiotic. Make meth or something?
No, they didn't even know what medicine I needed at that time.
I grew up in a place where
I'm laughing.
I was not needing Sudafed, but
yeah, I'm laughing that it was Alabama though. That was the only place you could get it when you said meth. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, sir. We only allow strict sales of meth.
They took down driver's license numbers
like,
to make sure
you didn't, with some amoxicillin. Let's go.
Too soon or too quickly after you had it the last time.
That's tough. This is just one of those like systemic failures for a company or a service where
they at least apologize.
There's some loophole that we
over the phone.
We acknowledge this makes no sense. Like when someone acknowledges something makes no sense, I want you to take the next step and fix it.
The AI that spoke to Davey apologized to him on behalf of telehealth. Coming up, no apologies necessary from Bill Belichick. He screwed the Jets again. Details next on Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader.
I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life.
ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here for Hot Mic across the OutKick Network. Hutton and Withrow with you. We hope you'll check out the show on YouTube. If you're there now, we hope you'll subscribe to the channel. You can check all the shows out that air daily across the vast OutKick Network. If you're listening to this great radio partner, we say thank you for that as well, and support them and their great station. 6th and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Chad, Mike Nolan joins us, former 49ers head coach, longtime defensive coordinator in the NFL, and current head coach of the Michigan Panthers in the USFL. He joins us in 20 minutes. Really looking forward to that conversation. Plus, Bobby Carpenter and Clay Travis still to come on the show.
What's the first thing that comes to mind when I say Mike Nolan to you?
For me, he was the head coach and general manager of the Niners when they passed on Aaron Rodgers in the draft.
For me, it's tie.
Oh.
He wore a tie.
Well,
I always think about his wardrobe.
In honor of his dad. And the NFL nearly blocked that.
Yes.
Because they were a Reebok league, and you had to wear Reebok gear on the sideline.
Yeah, if you ask me, you just say the name Mike Nolan and just do word association.
Yeah.
First thing I would say is tie. This guy wore a tie on the sideline.
And
when no one else wore a tie.
He wanted to do that to honor his dad. They blocked it at first, and then Reebok made a suit. And Jack Del Rio actually wore it as well after that. Do you wish they went back to more of that, the old school ways?
The Tom Landry.
Instead of the
look
Belichick
on the sideline.
Cut off the sleeves look?
I just wish there was more variation to it.
Oh, yeah. Like on, yeah, you're right.
You know, I just wish there was like people wore completely different things. Now everything's so uniform.
Yeah.
With the coach, I'd rather the clothes be part of the personality of the coach, like it was back.
Everything is a
think about
sales
John
gimmick.
Madden on the sideline with a short sleeve dress shirt.
Yeah.
And the short tie, you know, storming around the sideline, and then Tom Landry looking dapper with the hat, with the tie. I want more of that. Here's what I definitely want in college basketball: a return to at least a sports coat with no tie. Like, I like the Nate Oates look of sports coat, no tie. Dan Hurley, I think, goes with that most of the time as well. I like that look as opposed to a pullover.
A sweatsuit.
Now most of the coaches wear a pullover. It's not, you know, they wear like nice pants with it
Sometimes.
and dress shoes. When they get in these preseason tournaments, they're wearing anything goes. They could be wearing a hoodie on the side. They look like Bill Belichick on the sideline, some of these college coaches.
And you're right about
That bothers me, though. I like now to see the coaches that wear suits.
Yeah, and they want in the NFL, they want their coaches in the same gear they're selling in the pro shop. So everyone's in that same gear. There's a reason why they want the players at the first round at the draft. And then why they fly them in to their new team. They want them in the hat, they want them in their gear, so they can sell season tickets. You're selling hope because everyone's buying into whatever you're saying is going to work this time of year. Bill Belichick doesn't subscribe to that, though, Chad.
No.
It's always the hoodie, cut off sleeves.
He's an outlier. You know, he's a real rebel.
Whatever he wants, yeah. And he's, even this past weekend, still trying to, screw over the Jets, which he's done plenty throughout his career. And according to an anonymous general manager via the Washington Post, and this is through Jason Lockenfora. So you ask, so Green Bay moved up 2 spots to 13 overall when they traded Rodgers to the Jets. The Jets moved back to 15. Well, the Patriots picked right ahead of them, and they end up, the Jets wanted to boost their offensive line. The Patriots knew that the Jets wanted to do that. So the Patriots moved back, traded with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and according to the GM, the quote is, they should have had to give up a 3rd-round pick and not a 4 to move up there. Speaking of the Steelers, Belichick did it just to F the Jets. He sold low because he knew the Steelers were going to take the kid the Jets wanted to take. So he keeps one of the top offensive tackles out of New York and out of the protection box for Aaron Rodgers. Meanwhile, he did it on the cheap, and he still ends up helping his team because one of the top players doesn't end up going to the New York Jets.
I'm going to do some more word association here. I've got one word to describe this move. Awesome. What a great move. This is gamesmanship. This is sports. This is a team in his division. So if he wants to take the hit and not get a round better in the trade for his own team to screw over a rival that he plays twice a year, I'm all for it.
And what happened was Pittsburgh moved up. They draft Broderick Jones from Georgia. And then the Jets end up going with Will McDonald and act like it's who they wanted the entire time. Now, later in the draft, they helped themselves on the offensive line, but not in this case because Belichick was playing chess, at least with the New York Jets.
Well, it's also a calculated error and you're not getting exactly what you probably could get in return.
Right.
But you're negatively affecting the other team. So Bill Belichick is saying me negatively affecting the Jets outweighs the one round in this draft of a pick that I would get. I love it. If that's your calculation as a coach and you're trying to hurt your rival and help yourself in return.
And you move back and you still got Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah, go for it.
At corner in New England. Randall Cobb reuniting with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, we knew this was going to happen, right? We saw Alan Lazard sign early on, and he was like, yeah, I mean, Rodgers is going to be here. I'm not worried about it. I don't think anyone really was. But Randall Cobb, who is, I mean, if you looked at the free agent wide receiver list, he's right above Julio Jones, and they're like top 5 in terms of production from last year on what can be expected for a team on the free agent market looking for a wide receiver. I mean, it's bare. And he's one of them, but he was just waiting on the Jets to clear up some space, and he ends up headed to New York. And look, Rodgers is bringing in guys with him that he trusts. The Packers traded for Cobb from Houston just because Aaron Rodgers wanted them to. He wanted more say over the roster. They complied with that. And here are the Jets doing the same thing. The expectations are massive, and they should be for this Jets team. I can't get over the fact they're in the AFC, though. If this team was in the NFC, it's a no-brainer.
It would be one of the teams. It would be the team to compete with the Eagles.
Yes.
I agree with you on
and now
that
they're
one.
competing for the playoffs with the Dolphins and the Bills.
Yeah, I love this move also, similar to me loving the Belichick move, but it's less about the impact Randall Cobb will make on Sundays and more about the impact Randall Cobb will make with other Jets receivers in being able to instruct within that wide receiver room on exactly what Aaron Rodgers wants, right?
But there will be a fourth down that he's going to convert, right? Because
he's going to do something at some point, but point being that it's going to be very little of that at this point in Randall Cobb's career and a lot more of him helping the young Jets receivers to understand Aaron Rodgers and to understand what he's looking for in certain situations.
I get it.
It's sort of a coach player. I think.
Nearly had 500 yards receiving last year, though.
No, I mean Aaron Rodgers trusts him. So
only one touchdown.
He is going to help. My point is this is not some earth-shattering move that's going to elevate the Jets' offense to some new stratosphere because of where Randall Cobb is right now. What it is a guy that Aaron Rodgers explicitly trusts with that offense and to throw him the ball and know where he's going to be, that can be there at times if he stays healthy, but also be there to instruct the other Jets receivers that have not played with Aaron Rodgers on exactly what he wants from them. I like the move.
Well, and consider this. Nathaniel Hackett's the offensive coordinator. They have Lazard. Now they bring in Cobb. And the imperative point of the offseason is that Rodgers is there for the offseason. And he is. He's there the very next day. He's there on the day one of the NFL draft. He's working out on the field where he can on their own with Garrett Wilson and others. They can take off from week one and roll. Now, if he approached it the way he has the recent seasons, like this past season with the young like Christian Watson and others, this past year in Green Bay, it takes a while to get that momentum going.
If he's
not
all
in this
in,
case.
though?
Not this offensive coordinator he's used to, and 2 receivers now he's used to that can, as you're saying, relay the message behind the scenes.
And he's suddenly there for the offseason program.
Immediately.
We're getting, I think, now probably like Aaron Rodgers 3.0 at this point in his career, but there is a reboot in progress with him with the Jets, and there is a renewed spirit with him of cooperation with that Jets franchise. The dude looks 10 years younger.
Yes.
It is scary.
No, so how much
how
of that,
he looks now. Even looking at him in the Knicks games, I'm thinking,
smiling.
He looks 10 years young. He looks like a different person.
How much of that is just the haircut?
I think a lot of it's the haircut. It's like some good Hollywood tricks, right?
Yeah.
You change your hair, you change your wardrobe, you can look like a different person. A little makeup work done.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he's wearing makeup in these photos, but he looks great.
The
totally
NFL
different.
media is touching up the photos for him.
Yeah. They're all being touched up. He's got his own makeup professional before he goes to Madison Square Garden.
He's sitting courtside at MSG, and they have a filter on the camera for him.
Yeah. Hey, go to the A-Raj camera. No, not that one. The more high-def one.
Yeah.
No, low def, but in A-Raj lens in that filter. That's what we need.
Yeah, let's go to the fake filter. Instagram or TikTok and make Aaron Rodgers look like he's 10 years younger because he just left Green Bay.
Is there a New York filter? There was a Nashville filter on Instagram.
I don't know. We need like a younger version of Withrow right now to tell us if there is.
I've got some cousins. I've got a nephew who's
we're basically
about to
Jessica
graduate
Alba
from college.
and we're asking Sauce Gardner what's going on social media.
Got a nephew who's about to graduate from college. I could ask him. Maybe he's up to date on. He doesn't post a lot on Insta though. I feel like I post more on Instagram than he does.
Chad, you want to get drafted in the NFL?
I would have loved
Five
that
stars do
years
it.
ago.
Shannon Terry was in last week, sitting where you're sitting, and I asked him. I said, how does it translate from the 5 stars in a method and a grading and ranking system that they came up with when Shannon started Rivals? How does it relate to today's game and how many first rounders or just draft picks in general make their way to the NFL? And he told us last week it's a very high number. 81% this past weekend. 81% of the 5 stars of this class were drafted. And there is a significant drop-off after the second round or after the 4 stars are graded out. Here's Shannon from last week. Rankings. How does it translate to tomorrow night with the guys you'll see?
So the facts over the last 3 years, a 5-star has been taken. If you're a 5-star, you have a 60% chance of being drafted. Okay. Now there are 32 5-stars each year, so they're not many, and 60% chance you will be drafted. So that is 20 times more likely to be drafted in a class. And the data, what's amazing to me is if you look at the data, the last 5 years, 3 years, 4 years, all the way back to 10 years, it's always been in that 60% range. But I do think it's actually going to trend and get more accurate because there's more data, there's more information. Our scouting process is not really what people think. Here's the way it really, really works. We get on the phone and we talk to every assistant coach, every head coach, every scout there is, and they give us an enormous universe and kind of rank them for us. Then our scouts go in from there, take the information, and then start lining up the position rankings. And then it becomes a position value set. Then it becomes a state value set. That way you don't get 5 kids from Wyoming ever in the top 50. And it's also how you don't get a center number 1. So it's position, it starts out as a position from all of this data from these people. So there's a science behind it, but it's not empirical.
And the development, Chad, from the high school athlete to the pro athlete, a very short amount of time, really, but how your body develops just over the college years.
Yeah.
And once you get into the college program, the 5 stars are going to the top, the elite of the elite, the NFL of the college football realm. And how it translates 3.5, 4 years later is remarkable, considering that you're judging this based on a prediction, an evaluation of how you expect they're going to be used and how you expect they're going to develop overall, especially on the offensive and defensive lines.
Yeah.
Will Anderson's a great example. He's a 5-star, 3rd overall.
I'm honestly surprised that the percentage isn't higher because they do such a good job with only 32 guys as 5 stars, that 60% of them are drafted.
Well, 81 were drafted. 81% were drafted this past weekend.
The way, because there's so few of them, as Shannon said, the way it's weighted with 5 stars and they pick so few across the country, I thought that percentage may be more like 70 to 80 that gets drafted of those 5-star guys. So it goes to show, I saw the breakdowns from On3 of every single star ranking and how many guys were drafted. Huge percentage of not percentage, but a big bulk of 4-star guys drafted in terms of numbers. A lot of 3-star. I think 3-star is the most because there's so many draft picks. There were a few 2-stars, and I think the rest, like 1 or no stars, there were a number of those guys too. Highest percentage was definitely 5-star guys, but it's interesting seeing the breakdown of how close, and Shannon said this in an interview with you, and I went back and heard it, is that it's not an exact science.
Right.
People that want to criticize and say,
and neither is the draft.
Don't act like it's an exact science. Well, yeah. Projecting anything isn't always an exact science when you're talking about projecting talent or skill set or whatever. But they have gotten better at it over the years.
I mean, the 5 stars.
They haven't perfected it, but they've gotten better at the process of evaluation over the years.
5 stars in the top 5: Bryce Young, Will Anderson, Devin Witherspoon, from that class, from that senior high school class. That translates.
Yes.
And it's not an exact science, but it is a formula that works.
If you go one less level removed and just look at impact on college teams,
yeah,
you don't have teams winning the national title that aren't loaded with 4- and 5-star recruits. Some of the best recruiting classes in America. Every year you go down the list of the last 15 years, and you're going to find a team that's way up there in the recruiting rankings over 4 years.
Chad, it's not translating, though, for Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher. When you compare what Jimbo Fisher has done in recruiting to the number of players that Kevin Sumlin put into the NFL, Kevin Sumlin, over the course of his last 5 years with the program, they had 6 players drafted in the first round of the NFL draft. 2 were selected in the second round. And Jimbo Fisher has been at A&M now for 5 years. Only 2 players have been drafted in the first or second round. How troubling is this, given the expectations, the salary, and the fact that they're hyping up recruiting classes year after year to the point last year Saban's even calling them out for it?
It's very similar to John Calipari at Kentucky, in that the best thing that can happen for A&M is just grin and bear it and hope that it works out.
Hit on the quarterback.
Hope that Bobby Petrino is the elixir that you need to get this offense churning. Because that offense, described by people smarter than me in football as archaic, that they've been trying to run. Bobby Petrino, good offensive mind, can do a lot of different things with a more pro-style type offense that Jimbo Fisher wants to run. That's got to help them, because if not, they're in a tough spot with that contract. I mean,
they're going to have to pay up.
Jimbo Fisher, it doesn't really have a boss at Texas A&M. So this is all, we talked to Billy Lucci about it. It's all about him making the right decisions that he wants to change to improve the fortunes of the team. He did that bringing in Petrino. He's made a couple of other changes. If he's able to humble himself and do that, they still have what it takes to get it going at Texas A&M under Jimbo Fisher. If he doesn't, and he's stubborn, and he's not willing to change, it's going to be more of the same, and all A&M can do is cut him a huge check and ask him to leave so they can get someone in that'll make it work. That's it.
It's a win-win.
They've really got no other course of action but to sit and just pray that it works with Jimbo Fisher, because they put all their eggs into that basket.
Coming up, we chat with former NFL head coach, current head coach in the USFL, Mike Nolan. He joins us next on Hot Mike.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number 1 pet peeve, telemarketers. Number 2 pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number 3 pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number 4 pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up. Quit littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. I believe in it. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
when people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying, even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back. And if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
Mike Nolan will join us in a couple of minutes. Glad you're with us. Across the OutKick Network, Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow, live from 6th and Peabody with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Chad, New Jersey sportsbooks were instructed to halt betting on college baseball games involving Alabama today.
Oh, add another one to the list.
It continues. You've got regulations and the arbiters in Ohio that removed Alabama from any wagering process. Based on an irregular, something happened in that first game on that Friday against LSU where a pitcher was
scratched because it was a late scratch for a starting pitcher.
But we still don't know exactly the reason. But they're investigating suspicious wagering that occurred between Alabama and LSU last Friday. The NCAA is looking into this as well. And meanwhile, everyone's left asking questions about, okay, what's going on? Why these specific states, right, and not elsewhere? Because it hasn't been removed, for instance, to my knowledge, and we can check, it hasn't been removed in Tennessee, and that's where Alabama plays next on the diamond. Will be against Vanderbilt here in Nashville this weekend.
This is just a continuation of the heater that Alabama's been on in terms of negative stories around that program. They've got domestic assault, domestic violence charges against an associate AD hitting right around the same time. Something's up here. This is now 3 states that have pulled the plug on Alabama baseball. I don't know to what level it's going on.
Right. I need to know the connection.
If it's just they found some level of inside information coming from someone within the program that's going out to a number of people that's costing the sports books a ton of money that they've been able to zero in on, or if it's legitimate weirdness happening in games. Alabama's bad this year in the SEC, so have they done something in other games? But it looked like it was specific to what happened in the LSU game, which doesn't make sense because they actually played better than most expected.
So according to NOLA.com, the suspicious activity concerned 2 bets. A parlay involving Alabama LSU and a money line bet on LSU to win. It was placed, and we mentioned this yesterday, it was placed at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati, home of the Reds. So it wasn't like it took place in the state or anywhere near where they were playing at the time. LSU is the best team in the country. They're number 1. They were listed as a minus 270 money line favorite. Alabama was plus 220. And apparently this large bet came in on the money line before the line changed with the pitching discrepancy because of back tightness or whatever it was. So, I'm also confident in saying bets on college baseball are very small compared to Major League Baseball. So when you have a massive wager come in, you're automatically flagging that, aren't you? Just because of the sport.
And
it would be like us betting pickleball or something, and you're certain about whatever's going on, and it's flagged for that.
It's why I think that there's going to have to be more transparency in college football, as an example, with injuries and other things because of the legal betting going on now in America and how it could shift things. They're going to have to put a betting limit, max bet, on college baseball in general because of the problems that this could arise with this. Because, Hutton, is it illegal if someone in the program just called someone and said, yeah, Joey's not pitching tonight. He hasn't pitched all week, and he's been scheduled to pitch, but now it's going to be a late scratch.
Think about,
and then if that person ran and did some parlay and there will be place more money on it, doesn't that happen all the time?
The expectation, the expectation is, something nefarious happened from the program. The program could have just told the radio crew, hey, get this guy ready because he's starting today. We're having to pull this guy. And then you text whatever, and then you text the producer, and the producer relays something. Again, all hypothetical. We have no idea, but it doesn't mean that Alabama's involved in this. They could be. But it doesn't mean they are. They're looking at specifically 2 bets, a parlay. And what we don't know is the amount that was wagered. They refuse to tell us because it's an active investigation. And number 2, if it's the same person or were they separate bets from different accounts. Don't know that either. But, I mean, if you're just looking at it from a common sense perspective, and if you're on the road, at home, whatever it might be, and you're about to broadcast a game, you want to know who's going to take the mound, and if there's a late scratch, you're probably on the broadcast crew one of the first to figure it out. Again, I'm just tying that in because of the information that can be swapped around before it even gets to the next level, which would be changing an actual line based on a pitching matchup.
I just think it's a sport in general that could lead itself to some issues with this.
No
not just
doubt.
Alabama baseball.
But you can't bet on everything
in
college baseball,
it's like
right?
betting on the Oscars.
You can't bet on the run line. You can only bet the money line.
You can only bet on the money line, and that's all they allow. But they also flagged a parlay involving other games on the money line.
But it involved that game specifically.
Yeah.
They were that confident in it. Mike Nolan is the head coach of the Michigan Panthers, off to a great start. They just debuted in their home state for the first time in years, and he's back as a head coach for the first time in years. Coach Nolan joins us now. Mike, great to have you on the show, man. Hope things are well.
Thank you. Things are very good. I appreciate you having me on. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. How is it being a head coach again?
Well, it's different than it used to be from the standpoint of the league, really more than anything else. But it's been a lot of fun. I will say this: I'm enjoying this a lot more than I enjoyed it the last time, for a lot of different reasons. But primarily because I really enjoy the players. They've been outstanding. There's a great group of guys. They got a lot of goals ahead of them and trying to make it back to the NFL if they can. And we've got a really good group of guys that I think several of the guys will have that chance. But all in all, it's really, the players have been great, and also the staff and all the people that have been associated with the league have been really tremendous. So it's been really good.
Chad and I were heavily involved last year behind the scenes as the ramp up began for the first, kickoff. Several coaches turned down the opportunity. Other coaches were like, "Yes, I'm in. Let's get in this. Let's coach in the USFL." What convinced you that this was the right time to jump in and do this?
Well, I've been out of football for a couple of years, and I think the thing that was most intriguing was what our players are in it for, and that is they're all pretty much in it because they love football, and they want to get another shot. Most of them, anyhow. I would say just about every one of them, and that just doesn't go for the players. It also goes for the coaches that are on my staff. A lot of those guys are trying to find their way into the NFL. So I really felt like it'd be a great opportunity for me to get back into coaching and coach and try to help some people out, I guess you could say. And for me, it really is, as maybe crazy it might sound, but for me, I really feel like I'm trying to give back as best I can. The NFL was great to me for over 30 years, for 34 years, as a matter of fact. And like I said, I was out of it, but the opportunity to maybe give back was intriguing to me, and it's been most enjoyable since I've been here.
And it was a cool atmosphere. I know you like to win the game. But I mean, you've
that's
got
right.
it's back in Detroit. You've got Calvin Johnson there, among other celebs that are around to bring up the whole pageantry of what's going on with the USFL being back. That's got to be cool for that city, for that state, and for the players to have that support.
You're right. It was an exciting atmosphere. The crowd was into it. We didn't give them much to cheer about early on, but then it became a game for about 3 quarters until the end, where they got another explosive on us, and which was uncharacteristic of our defense in the first 2 games. We've done an outstanding job. Obviously, we won those 2 games. We played very well, but we didn't play as well early in that game, and it put us behind the 8 ball. Which affected our entire football team. But again, we got within 8 points for much of the game and thought we were going to be right back in it. So there was a big disappointment for me as far as, and for our whole entire team, as far as not performing better on the home stage, which we had. But look, we've got a lot more home games coming up, and I truly believe we'll redeem ourselves as far as that goes. I'm hopeful of this. I'm hopeful that the game kind of taught us something about who we are, and what that is the first 2 games, that's who we thought we were. But you're always capable of having the kind of game we had the other day if you don't pay close attention to the detail things. And I'm very hopeful that that's what we learned out of that. Because if we did, we'll go back to our winning ways like we had the first couple of weeks, and hopefully that's what happens.
Hutton mentioned that we were really involved a year ago with everything going on with the USFL, and saw the inner workings of that hub there in Birmingham, and every game that year was played in Birmingham. What is the work week like for you right now, Coach, in terms of some of the back and forth and the way things have gone early in this season with trying to get guys ready for these games, travel involved, everything else? What's it been like from your perspective?
Well, first off, I wasn't at Birmingham. Not that you said this, but I wasn't at Birmingham last year.
Yeah,
but I do understand, all the things they went through. We're going through the same types of things here, but not to the degree that they did last year. When you have 8 teams at one hub, I can only imagine what it was like for those guys. And if you guys saw it firsthand, then you would know. But we share the site naturally with the Stars, the Philadelphia Stars. And but that has not been any issue, really. I think it's gone along pretty smoothly for the most part. They practice early, we practice a little bit later. We practiced at the same site over at Eastern Michigan, and by the way, those people have been great to us. And so we share that. But as far as other things, I guess you have to be ready for certain things. We've had some glitches here and there as far as travel from time to time, but nothing that kept us from playing the game. And ultimately, that's what we're here to do. So we have to work around things as far as scheduling goes. If the weather gets bad and we have to go to an indoor facility or whatever it might be, maybe the buses are late or something like that. But in the end, we get there on time, or at least in time enough to do our practices. And like I already said, as far as the games go, we get there and we play the game, and that's really the part you look forward to. Everything else is kind of peripheral, but we've been able to make it work thus far, and it's like I've said many times, it's really been enjoyable.
Mike Nolan with us. He's the head coach of the Michigan Panthers in the USFL. So one of the jarring aspects for me, Coach, was the advantage that the defensive line has in the USFL. Because if you're athletic at all and you play offensive line, you're on a practice squad now in the NFL doing something. And on the defensive line, to me, the most athletic in the trenches players were always on defense. As a defensive-minded coach, you have to be thrilled with that, don't you?
Well, you say defensive-minded, but I'm a head coach.
Okay.
So I'm
you're still defensive-minded, I'm guessing.
50-50. You're 50% happy,
You're
50%
right in
sad.
defensive. You are right in what you're saying, although obviously the objective for me now is to win more than anything else.
Sure,
but anyhow, it's I would say that you're correct in what you're saying about the linemen. It's really tough in this league, in this thing, to get good offensive linemen. And the same goes a little bit for defensive linemen, but not quite as much, which you pointed out. And I think that's because you can find a little bit more athleticism that just didn't have the mental makeup quite yet, or the maturity to play in the NFL, but they got a lot of physical things, the attributes that are really good on the offensive line. As you've already stated, it's hard to find big, strong, mean guys that want to play offensive line. But we've got a good line, though. I mean, I'll say that we've got a good line. But the thing that hurts you the most is when you get injuries on the O-line. It's hard to replace them.
Coach, if I were guessing, I would say your favorite defense was at some point in Baltimore. Am I right in thinking that, or is there a different group that you would point to initially?
My two favorite groups were Baltimore for sure, and then the Giants. When I went there, Lawrence Taylor still had a year left, and that first year we were there. Matter of fact, we set the record for the Giants in least amount of points that year. But believe me, it was a lot of really good players that were tough as nails. So those two teams, though, without question, the Giants and the Ravens were the two defenses that I thoroughly enjoyed. When we were at the Ravens, we had Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, Suggs, and we drafted a couple of them while I was there. Ray was already there, but that was a really a special group as well.
We did some word association earlier, and I said whenever I hear the name Mike Nolan, the first word that comes to mind is tie, because I think of you as the coach in the suit and tie at a time where it was not fashionable like it was many years ago in the NFL, and it was a big part of your personality as a coach. Any thoughts of bringing that look back, Coach, on the USFL sidelines?
You know, this is the truth. I'll wear a suit when the hair comes back.
I like that. But there was something about it, though, that was, I'm sure you growing up watching different coaches sideline, their wardrobe was a part of the personality of that coach, and sometimes, in a weird way, the personality of that team. You would kind of associate with the way the coach presented themselves and the way they dressed. I know you did it as a tribute to your father, your late father now. Was that the sole thinking behind it, or was it also kind of a part of the personality?
Yeah, and thank you for remembering him, by the way. But I did it for the right reason. My mentors, Dan Reeves was probably my primary mentor outside of my father as far as coaching goes, and he wore a suit till the day he quit coaching. And so it was worn for that reason. I also felt it was a good reason to wear it because the 49ers at that time, when I first went there, really had a lot of down years, about 6 or 7 down years, and things weren't looking good. We had a lot of things to do. So I thought it'd be, something positive that would kind of be brought to it. And look, I'm not a really big guy, so wearing a suit for me is actually more comfortable than it would have been for, say, an Andy Reid or somebody that's a bigger man. So I try to take advantage of the opportunity just to show a little class, to bring some class back to an organization that was kind of top notch in that area at one point in time. But it was a lot of fun. It was. Jack Del Rio jumped on board too after I had done it, and Jack's a bigger fellow, big, good-looking guy that wore the suit real well. So that worked out well for him.
What happened to that Reebok suit?
By the way, Reebok came in and they laid out a whole thing on the table when it all first started back in 2005 and said, all right, let's piece this thing together. How are we going to do this? In other words, they were trying to be suit makers. And I said, look, guys, we'll just put a little Reebok patch inside but I got another guy that's going to make my suit for me. Okay, I got a guy that can do this. And so after going round and round with him, for some reason they really wanted to be the suit maker. I said, this isn't going to work, guys. You're not going to make it look. It's not. If it looks bad, you don't want Reebok's name on it. So I said, well, I got to go. So anyhow, that's what we did. We ended up. I had a guy that had been doing my suits for a while. Anyhow, so we did that. Stuck a little Reebok patch in there, and sure enough, it became a Reebok suit.
Well, this is a true story. I have a buddy who's got a tailor in Hong Kong. And he sent a text to a couple of me and a couple of friends and said, my tailor from Hong Kong is going to be in Nashville this week if you guys want a nice suit. And I'm thinking, this sounds like a crazy movie storyline.
The Hangover.
Was your tailor also out of Hong Kong, out of Italy, or was this a local tailor that you liked?
No, it was, matter of fact, it was Joey. Joey's his name, and he's in New York. And I met Joey somewhere along the line. I can't remember where, when I was probably coaching back east. But no, it wasn't anyone overseas. It was someone that I did know, and he was a good person. Became a good friend.
Is the suit now in your closet still? Did you just keep it?
Yeah. I'm gonna tell on somebody here really quick. All right.
Okay.
There was one of the guys on my staff that was very close to me still to this day, and I gave him when I got fired at the 49ers. I gave him 2 or 3 of the suits. And he had them retailored to fit him, and he still wears them to this day. I got fired in 2007.
Wow. And with the Reebok patch on the inside and everything, right?
Every time I see him and he's on the road, I swear to you, he'll pull it open and look, and it's still got my name because it had Reebok and then had my name on it. He's showing, he goes, "Looky there," and I think, "Oh my God, I got to buy you a new suit."
That guy owes you.
You're still wearing this.
That guy owes you.
Yes, he just wears it when he knows he's going to see me. He can't be wearing that thing all the time.
Mike Nolan, our guest on Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow. 18 years later, Coach, when you see Aaron Rodgers now in New York, how much do you regret passing on him in San Fran?
I've never been asked that way about it, but look at he's. I wish I had known he was going to be the Hall of Fame player he is, because both quarterbacks turned out to be good. But there's no question that Aaron Rodgers is one of the top 3 or 5 quarterbacks of all time, and so therefore I have to say it was a mistake that we didn't pick him. I mean, everybody that chose prior to the Green Bay Packers at 20-something, they did take him, made the same mistake we did. But obviously, we had the first pick in the draft that year and didn't take him. But we did entertain him, and he was the second choice if we didn't take Alex Smith, who we did take. And like I said, Alex turned out to be a very good quarterback in the NFL as well. But not, there's, like I said, I mean, there's only a few that have turned out like Aaron Rodgers. And so yeah, I have some regrets about not taking him. But I'm happy for him, though. I'll say this: it did him more good going to Green Bay than it would have if he had come to San Francisco playing behind Brett Favre like he did. I think was one of the things that really made him a great player as well, because Brett was that, and Brett had some things in his game that Aaron had since kind of taken into his own game and kind of added it to his repertoire of things that he did and the style in which he played, and he got some of that from Brett. So I think, that's like I said, I'm really happy for him, and it turned out great for him, and even better because he played behind a Hall of Famer in Brett Favre.
I think that this is an important answer for fans to hear. As an NFL team, do you ever give any consideration or talk to where a player is from? Because Aaron Rodgers from the Bay Area, played in the Bay Area. We're always trying to instruct fans that NFL teams aren't looking at that. They're trying to just draft the best player, and they're not looking at where someone is from and where the team is at the time where they are in the NFL. Do you ever talk about that as an NFL staff when you're bringing someone in?
I think as a decision maker, depending what level you are in the organization, it might enter your mind a little bit, because there's some truth about that it is talked about. And because if they're from the same area, there's a little bit more attention given to that player. So sometimes you even get ownership involved when things like that come about, where they'll say, I want this player for this and this reason, if that's the case. And I don't deny that has happened before. Can I say that I've been a part of it? Not really, but I think I've seen that. There is a lot of truth, though, to the fact that some people do target players from certain schools for different reasons than what we're talking about. And that's not the question you asked, but that does happen often where somebody will target LSU players or Alabama players or players. If they're looking for linemen, they'll try to get people from the north up in the Big 12 as it used to be, things like that, because they feel those are the better players for their team. When I was at New York, there was a little bit of targeting going on, I felt at times, but for good reason, because you can't just bring anyone into New York and say they're going to be a good player because they were in college, because New York can destroy some guys if they aren't mentally strong. And that's the truth of the matter. If you bring anyone weak into New York, mentally I'm talking about, and they're at a premier position like quarterback, you better make sure they're strong-minded, because New York will get on you fast, and if you're not strong, you're going to crash and burn, and you might be a great player but not there. So there's some truth to places, where it means something as far as where you're from and what you can handle.
Coach, what's coming up for your team? And when we watch the Michigan Panthers, what do you hope we take away from a Mike Nolan coach team?
I hope you take away that we play fast, we play physical. Outside of being about points, we're about trying to get the ball. And I hope that's what you see, because I think that's who we were for the first 2 weeks of the season, without question. And we weren't that for 60 minutes the other day. We were that for a little while, but not 60 minutes.
And avoid the drone. That's the other thing that Chad and I had to figure out, was that the humming sound of the drone that moves around these games is kind of crazy. And hopefully the football doesn't hit it as well. Coach, this has been great. We've got plenty more from the history of the defenses you've coached. I got to at some point ask you how you became a wide receiver coach for 1 year in Baltimore, throughout, and much more. Hopefully you'll join us down the road as the season progresses.
I'll be happy to, guys. Always, it's a pleasure. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you,
Coach.
There's Mike Nolan. Great visit there. Former Oregon Duck as
He's
well.
got to get that
3-year
suit
starter
back from his buddy that he lent it to him, and he's been wearing it ever since.
The Reebok suit.
Got to get it back. That wasn't even a Reebok suit. How about that reveal? It was made by Joey in New York City, and they just put a fake Reebok logo on the inside of it.
Doesn't surprise me. And guess what? Reebok made the right decision by allowing Mike Nolan to have his tailor make the suit.
Yes.
Coming up, ESPN, they're retailoring, shuffling up the broadcast booth for Monday Night Football for the second crew. We'll explain coming up on Hot Mic.
One thing you'll notice is every pitcher will do this or this or this, and that's to get moisture for this. Okay, this is rosin, and the rosin bag, if you can probably see this, it's coming out. There's a little dust, right? It's like a little fine powder. Of itself, it's not sticky. Like, I have rosin in my hand, it's not sticky. However, the second I do this, when I'm sweating, I make the rosin sticky. That's when I go back to the ball and rub the ball up to give me a little more adhesion between my hand and the ball. Now, here's the thing. If you think about this, if I put a fine powder on my hand and then I make that powder wet that makes it sticky, any dirt that I come in contact with is going to stick to my hand, all right? So what you're going to see over the course of a couple innings will be my hand will start to darken because it might look like a substance, but it's not. It's just sticky rosin that has dirt in it. Now, I was a guy, so here's the thing. I threw a split-finger fastball, right? I did not want the ball to stick to my fingers ever. So I didn't want rosin in between my fingers. So I would wash the insides of my fingers between innings with alcohol if it got too sticky. However, there are other guys that throw sinkers, certain breaking balls, who will want the ball to be extra, extra sticky, and they'll just let their hand muddy up. Now, the umpires can certainly say, hey, listen, you got to wash it off. That's fine. But they have to acknowledge that just washing it off isn't going to change the fact that it's sticky, because you go back to the rosin, you have more moisture, it gets stickier. Your hand's going to look dark no matter what, right? And if you touch your hat all the time, you'll see that Major League Baseball players' hats a lot of times will get dark under the brim or dark at the cap. Also, guys like Gaylord Perry that used to cheat, they would use Vaseline on the inside of their caps. They would use Vaseline on the inside of their bottom lower lip because it stayed there. And you see guys that used to do this a lot. That was what they were doing, and then they'd lick their hands. Anyway, So your hand's going to be, so Max's hand was clearly in a non-agreeable state to the umpires. He went back. I'm sure he watched it. But he came back, and you could see the way he was arguing. He didn't do, in his mind, he didn't do it. He followed their orders. He did what they said to do. And this ambiguous rule needs to be fixed and changed. Rosin, I don't know how you do that, but the umpires are put in a really bad situation now, once again, because they're not given a set rules of engagement. And anytime you give somebody the ability to engage without rules defined, you have massive, massive problems.
White Sox pitcher Louis Giolito left Tuesday's game versus the Phillies after 6 innings with a no-hitter. He had thrown 102 pitches, but they shut him down. The no-hitter was broken up by the relievers. I can't imagine. I think I know what you're going to say, but any chance you get off the hill with a no-hitter after 6?
So whoever's back at the control center with the curse button, be ready. There's no chance. None that I come out of the game. And to the point where if you told me I was coming out, I would still go out to the mound and force you to have all 3 of us standing on the mound at some point. No chance. And when I played, that probably wouldn't have happened. It's a different game now. There are and guys being okay with it, I think, is an enormous red flag to how these guys are being raised in the minor leagues. Yes, you respect your manager and your coach, but at some point you're in the right to help coach yourself if you're responsible and your coach trusts you and stuff like that. And no, none, absolutely none.
Great conversation there with Mike Nolan. Hopefully he'll be back with us later as the USFL season progresses. They take on Memphis this coming weekend. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on. Chad, a shake-up for the Monday Night Football booth. Not what you're thinking with Joe Buck or Troy Aikman.
How often do they have the second booth? Once?
Well, no, not with the new contract. There will be 5 different
yeah.
games, including the international game, the extra playoff game now that they'll have. There are 5 games throughout the calendar year for the NFL season where Aikman and Buck will not be on the call because they'll be doing something else with the NFL for the network. And it's going to be Chris Fowler now as the lead play-by-play host. And then you have play-by-play Chris Fowler along with Louis Riddick and Dan Orlovsky on the broadcast. Steve Levy was in that post. he's going back to hosting duties, which he does a great job with when he's hosting something. Fowler, of course, the lead play-by-play man for college football with Herb Street. I mean, he was rumored to be on the chopping block whenever they had all these budget cuts right now, because he had a year left remaining on his deal, and they've added this to the plate, and it's clear that he's extended the contract, which was he was on the back end of what was a $30 million contract over a long period, I think a 9-year, $30 million deal. He is one of the guys, Chad, I hope he never leaves ESPN, just from the college game day structure.
Yeah, he's a lifer. He is synonymous with ESPN. And his tennis work also on ESPN.
Yeah, yes.
He's an ESPN.
Yeah, and just back in the day with him on game day, you're thinking, this is impactful. Well, now he's on crew number 2, and he wants to do a lot more play-by-play.
But he's number 1 in our hearts.
Now he has the chance to do it at the NFL level. Bobby Carpenter next, then Clay Travis.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the final hour is here on this Wednesday edition of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. 6th and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Clay Travis joins us in 20 minutes. Hit the headlines throughout the show. We hope you'll subscribe to the YouTube channel. And just go to YouTube, search out OutKick, hit subscribe, like, share it with your friends.
Got a lot of YouTube subscribers now.
No doubt.
A big increase in YouTube subscribers.
Big thank you to all those who watch. And you can all watch all the great shows on demand and live, for that matter. You can get the alerts, set the alerts there.
YouTube chat's been active also, which is good. So interact. I will pop in there and respond at times.
Was it Penelope? What's her name?
There was a Penelope Vasquez.
Oh, yeah.
That I suspect is someone in this company that is trying to catfish, just based on when I mention the name Penelope Vasquez, magically Penelope Vasquez appears in our YouTube chat.
She will momentarily.
There is an Allie that is currently in the YouTube chat that I suspect is real.
Okay.
Unlike Penny, who I call Penelope Penny, by the way. We have a little inside joke.
Know each other well.
But yeah, no, it's a lively chat. So step in.
Great chat headed our way right now. Bobby Carpenter joins us. We talk college football, NFL draft, and more with the former Dallas Cowboy, Ohio State Buckeye, and now you can catch him on SiriusXM Channel 84. Follow him on Twitter at BCarp3. Bobby, great to see you, man. One of the best backdrops, period, among all guests is Bobby Carpenter in his home office. How are you, man?
I'm doing great, guys. How has your wonderful Wednesday been?
Solid. Yeah. Taylor Swift is coming to town here in Nashville. I think she's in Atlanta and headed this way. Back-to-back shows at the stadium, and hotels are packed. Hard to get a reservation anywhere, and 6th and Peabody is jammed with people that are getting here early on a Wednesday for a Friday start.
Would you like to see Taylor Swift live, Bobby?
Go ahead.
Coach, I'll be there on Friday night. So,
will you really?
Yeah, I've fully abreast as we were trying to plan our car service and figure everything out and how that was all going to work. We were initially planning on staying the night, but we're just going to go down and back quick for a quick trip. But it's it's going to be good over there. Over at the Titans Stadium, should be a fun one.
Are you being serious?
Are you? I can't tell if you're being serious now. Are you really going?
No, I'll be there Friday night. Yeah,
that's
Cinco
awesome.
de Mayo, bud.
I'll see you here.
Who is this? Is this a family trip or just you solo with the guys? This is a guy boys trip with the Swifties.
No, it's not really a boys trip, kind of a neighbors and friends trip. My wife and one of our neighbors, good friends, that his wife, their birthdays are both on the 6th. They kind of like Taylor, but it's mostly for his 3 daughters, my daughters. We got some friends going. So we've got a nice little crew of like 18 people that'll be heading down there. And tried to book Saturday, couldn't get it. It was packed, all sold out. So we were able to get Friday night and still get back here to be able to watch the Derby here on Saturday. So pretty excited about that. But yeah, I know it's slammed. The ticket prices are ridiculous. And like I said, we spent, trying to get car service after the show, which is just the lady laughed at us when we talked to her like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
She said it had been booked up for months. So thankfully we were able to get at least a couple of rental cars that we should be able to have the ability to get out of the stadium and get back to get out of there.
What Bobby's saying is I will not see him on Broadway on Friday night based on the crew. And on the pricing.
No, look, Bobby, I'm being completely honest. I am jealous of this right now. I would love to go see Taylor Swift live.
Oh, I thought you
and
meant
I
the
think
car
anyone,
service.
I think anyone who claims like I wouldn't watch Taylor Swift live is lying. They would go. Like I understand not paying a ton of money for a ticket, but if someone handed someone a ticket and said you can go watch Taylor Swift tonight, most everyone would go watch Taylor Swift. Am I crazy here? Of course you'd go watch it. Hutton's saying he wouldn't.
I would hate the people I would be around. Not the show, but the
like Bobby and his family. You'd hate being around them.
Bobby knows what I'm talking about here.
I'm with you. It's going to be a lot of teenage girls.
This is not a Kenny Chesney show.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different vibe. I love going to concerts. And so to go there, say, I saw Taylor, okay, that'll be good. T Swift, this is about one off. Her one of her guitarists is actually, I believe he's from Cleveland, Ohio, big Buckeye fan. So excited down there, to go see him. I got to meet the whole crew. They did a performance up at ESPN right before COVID and everything. They did it at the Seaport. So I got a chance to talk to some of the band as they were coming through. So I got to find that out. It's amazing all the people you see in music, like how big of sports fans they are. And then you find out like either the college or the professional teams that they cheer for. and they're all about it as much as you're about the music. So I'll go see her. I mean, I don't know if I'll go see her again, but this is nice. Like I said, I have a 12-year-old daughter, and this is a lot of her birthday present. And then it's like, a little bit of a girls trip for the ladies as well.
Bobby Carpenter with us. He'll be in Nashville on Friday to see Taylor Swift. And hey, I thought about this earlier in the show. We're Chad and I are discussing how refreshed and younger Aaron Rodgers looks. Right? He's actually showing up to OTAs and he's throwing the football. How much of this do you think is the new location and the new team versus just getting a haircut? Because you would be able to relate to this, Bobby, the haircut and the youthful aspect that comes with that versus your playing days with the long hair. I'm curious, is it the haircut or is it the Jets?
I mean, I think it's a haircut and a shave. I mean, he's kind of trimmed up the beard a little bit. He shaved, he's got, when you get older, you get a little gray coming through there. So he kind of trimmed that down. It looks a little better, obviously trim the hair up. I think honestly, that's as much of it as anything. He did look like he was, out there on Naked and Afraid, doing the darkness retreats and everything.
Yes.
You just become one with the wilderness and one with the woods. You start looking like a woodsman. You start looking a little weathered and tired. But now,
there he is.
Gosh,
there's Bobby there with the long hair.
Yeah, and the mustache. My wife really loved the mustache. I mean, the long hair was palpable and intolerable, but the mustache was not at all. So that had to go for before our wedding day at least. But Aaron, I think there is, whenever you start somewhere new, and I played for a couple of teams, and I talked to guys who even moved later in their career, and it's different. You get so used to doing something the same way. And I remember talking to Zach Thomas about this when he came to Dallas. He goes, it re-energizes you. You go into a new facility. And it's not just the teammates that are different, because those guys roll through, but the training staff is different. Coaches are different. You have to learn a new system. You're in a new city. There's just a lot of new things going around. Heck, you're like a dog in a dog park, just trying to figure out everything that's going around and new sights and smells and activities and everything else. So there is that rush of energy, and it does, I think, reinvigorate you, which is what I'm sure Aaron's going through now. I mean, yeah, he's got some of his old friends that are coming along, as we just found out they signed Randall Cobb, but outside of that, he's throwing to Garrett Wilson. He's like, man, this guy's really good. He's a lot like Devontae Adams. That sounds great. Working, trying to talk to, Nathaniel Hackett's there, but hey, trying to find a way to blend, systems of what we're doing. Are we going to do the exact same thing in Green Bay? What do we like? What are we doing here? So there's just a lot of stuff. And then you're in a new city. I mean, I don't know if you could have juxtapose two different locations with Green Bay and then obviously New York and South Orange. Like, that's about as far away on the spectrum as you're going to get from NFL.
So, Bobby, Hutton and I both believe that the Texans got it right with C.J. Stroud, even after all the back and forth and all the speculation that they were out on the Ohio State quarterback. We really like the pick. What do you make of the build-up to the draft in regards to C.J. Stroud and how it suddenly became a huge shock when the Houston Texans, when his name was announced at number 2? Do you think that was all legitimate? Or do you feel like it was really C.J. Stroud all along and it was all just noise around him?
Well, I mean, Houston may have been the one team that was probably hammering him as much as anybody. And, talked about they don't even need to take a quarterback there. And people are like, well, why is that important? Because I think people were on the presumption that they were going to take Will Anderson or a defensive player. And then all of a sudden you take CJ, and then you see them trade right back up. And I don't know if they wanted anybody else to get in that bidding war. If someone loved, Anderson, to go up and get him potentially as well. So, there's that option too, where it's a lot of it's gamesmanship. And so once the draft is done, nobody knows where all those leaks were coming from. Nobody knows what was said and who said it. It's terrible because you go through a process where you have all this great film. And that's why even Will Anderson Jr., people are talking about him not being the first defensive player taken. I'm like, dude, this guy, there might be guys who have, quote, more of an upside, like higher athletic potential. But I just watched this dude play really good football for 3 years in a really good system, an NFL system with a very demanding head coach, has great, no character flaws or nothing off the field. And then people are besmirching him as well. And heck, that may have been Houston too, talking about, hey, maybe we should go with this guy or that guy, or different players out there because they have bigger upside. In reality, Houston, I think, got 2 guys who are going to be cornerstones of their program on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. D'Amico Ryans and I came out together. I followed his career, followed his coaching career. If I'm him, like, this is the way I want to go. I want to make sure I've got two young guys who I trust, who have really good film. They're good football players. They have the physical traits that you want. Maybe there's guys that, quote, have faster 40s or longer arms or whatever the heck it is. But I've watched these guys play at a high level against top quality competition for a couple of years at least and have played it really well. And so I feel good about that moving forward. So the draft process, I mean, it's like this every year. I think it gets even worse with quarterbacks. Will Levis probably fell victim to it. But here's the reality, too. I mean, the Colts, they talked about how he was their second quarterback. Maybe they liked him better than C.J. Stroud. And this is the crazy thing about the draft, gentlemen, is it's better to be one team's first choice than like 8 teams' second choice. Because if they all get their first, then you just keep on sliding. So if Anthony Richardson, someone would have came up and got him at 3, or, maybe the Texans take him at 2, then maybe Will Levis does go 4. And like, so that's just how this whole thing can kind of spiral and things can really work in a different angle than people thought. Like, one change of a decision ultimately can impact literally the entire rest of the draft board.
Bobby, you were 18th or 19th overall in the draft.
18th.
I'm not saying that you were in this boat. In fact, I bet you were very good with your money, because at the time the contracts were not slotted, so you didn't know exactly what you're going to get. I will never forget being in the locker room. Pac-Man Jones held out, and then he got a $15 million check, and instead of direct deposit, he taped it on his locker the day that he actually showed up to his first practice. I'll never forget this. Is there a moment that you recall, like a rookie coming in and be like, dude, what are you doing? Maybe they're blowing their money, or maybe they're showing it off way too much. And I mean, nowadays we don't get those stories because I think the guys know what they're getting when they come in instead of negotiating and then bragging about it.
Well, that's the irony of it is in the NFL. It's like this in all professional sports. It's really the only industry in America where everybody knows what everyone else makes. So it's not like if one of you guys shows up and you're driving a Porsche, you're like, man, Hutton must have got a raise. Must be, doing great. Show's on fire. Hey, look at this. They must be paying him. And the NFL, you're like, that dude's driving, a $190,000 Porsche and he's making, $550, not $5.5 million. Like, this guy's just a fool. He's not wealthy. He's just an idiot. So you kind of see that. And now the one thing that has helped a lot, and this I think is going to help with NIL, and as much as people dislike how that works, guys getting adept to dealing with dollars in the tens and hundreds of thousands, which, not that that's small money, but it's small money relative to millions. And so they'll learn how to kind of deal with that. They'll have a little bit of money, and then they go on to the next level. It's like, hey, we've already got it. We've got an investment plan. We figured out what we want to do. And there's no reason for any of these guys to go broke. I mean, yeah, I've got 4 kids. And so I tell my kids all the time, if your mom and I would have never had any of you, I could have probably never worked again and just hung out and chilled and drank beers all day, worked out, and went surf. I would have been kind of like Patrick Swayze in Point Break. Maybe had to rob some banks every now and then, but I mean, that would have been the life. Sounds pretty great. So there's no excuse. So when I was there really wasn't the organizations that I went to, thankfully, they drafted guys who were pretty smart. But I will say this, like, one good story, like Anthony Spencer, we talk about the rookie dinners. He was the first round draft pick the year after me in Dallas. He played an outside backer. They slid me inside, and he's a Purdue guy. And he came in, and I was just trying to help him out. So we go to the rookie dinner, and this is the thing: like, you see those big meals. So I stayed there with him. I think we even rode together because he bought a house close to me. So I'm like, all right, man, we'll go together. I threw in like $1,000, got money from all the vets. So it was like 18 grand, but he only had to pay 10 of it. And so we're getting all the vets get up to leave. I stay with him because we're going to go out later, and he gives them his credit card, and they come back and they're like, sir, your card got declined. And I'm like, Spence, man, what happened? He's like, well, I mean, I just got that card. I mean, I went to the bank, they printed it off. They gave it to me the other day. I go, have you bought anything else on it? And he's like, no. I'm like, you think the first purchase they're going to let you have is $10,000 at Papa Brothers in Dallas? Like, they're not like, that's 100% fraud alert. Like, what are we doing? And then so I ended up paying for it on my credit card. And I'm like, just get me back, Spence. I know you're literally good for it. You just got paid. 10 grand isn't that much. And like a week goes by, I'm like, all right, Spence, man, like, I'm not hurting for dollars, but I don't want this to like drift into like the end of the season. And I'm still like, hey man, it's 10 grand you owe me. It's not like $500 or $50. And so then he writes me a check. I give it to my wife. She goes to cash it or deposit it in our bank account. And she's like, hey, the bank won't take this. Like, what do you mean? Like, I know he's got the money. She's like, he never signed the damn thing. And I'm like, Spence, how many checks have you written? He's like, not many. I'm like, you got to sign it, dude. Like everything else on there is meaningless unless you sign in the bottom right-hand corner. And so like the guys in there, Anthony Spencer was a smart dude. He went to Purdue, like out of Fort Wayne, like good family. And I'm like, but just now these guys are so much better educated getting there. So I don't think you're going to see, the Pac-Man Jones stuff of the world anymore, where guys come in and just BMF blowing money fast, and carrying it around in trash bags in Vegas.
You got guys like Kevin Mawai and others who are just, on the opposite side of the locker room coming in off of practice in training camp, and Pack had just showed up, and more power to him. I mean, he's got the check, right? But like it's taped to his locker as guys walk in and walk by his locker waiting on 32 to arrive. Bobby Carpenter has been our guest. Always great stories and reminiscing, plus previewing college football and NFL and more. Bobby, thank you as always, man. We always appreciate the visit, and we'll catch up soon. Enjoy Nashville, the quick trip, and enjoy the luxury of a car service.
Well, we want a full recap of your experience with the Swifties also.
Yeah, do you listen? Real quick, do you listen to Taylor Swift on the drive down, or is that not allowed?
Oh, we'll be definitely listening. We've been listening to Taylor Swift. I'm familiar with most of her old stuff, but like
same.
the new stuff, I've got to play it. So we've had it on Alexa. My wife's been playing it all month. She's like, if we're going to go and spend all this money going here, we got to at least know the songs. So like her new pop stuff, I'm not necessarily as too up to date with. So we've been playing it. So yeah, we'll listen to more of it on the way down and try to make a nice night of it.
You're more of a Romeo and Juliet era Taylor Swift fan.
Tim
is
McGraw.
what I'm hearing. Yes.
Believe me, I didn't realize this is a whole thing. Like people have outfits planned and like, well, what album are you going to be based off of? Like style. And like, this is the girls. This is what they're doing.
What's your
like
answer?
My daughter, I don't know any of that crap. Like Miss is just so far above my head and pay grade, but it is what it is. If you guys have girls, you understand. If
I have two girls, and trust me, I understand. My daughter's favorite artist is Dove Cameron, who is a singer in the Descendants movies. And we were listening to that entire album on the way to school today. So trust me, I know that's. Let me also tell everyone out there, far worse than Taylor Swift. Dove Cameron, Taylor Swift, a lot more talent and better songs than Dove Cameron of the Descendants. So I feel your pain, Bobby.
Love it, guys.
Bobby, appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
There's Bobby Carpenter. Follow him on social at bcart3. Hopefully he'll post a photo.
I hope he gets dressed in his favorite era. It's the Eras tour for Taylor Swift.
Favorite album.
You got to pick an era of Taylor Swift's career, and I hope he dresses in that era.
I'm picking the John Mayer short-lived era of Taylor Swift.
Who else? The Calvin Martin, the DJ guy. Wasn't she with him too?
No idea.
Matt turned around like he was going to answer me, and then he just stared at me.
Wasn't us back in the day.
Calvin Harris. Thank you. Calvin Martin, Calvin Harris.
And who's the dude that she just broke up with? So she could write more songs?
Some jabroni. Who knows?
So do you buy into the fact that like people like Taylor Swift or John Mayer, they can't be happy in a relationship because they need to write more material about being sad about the breakup? I feel like they have to create that.
I think they're also both earmuffs to all the Taylor Swift and John Mayer fans out there, just both so incredibly self-involved that they could never, ever be in a relationship.
They have to write it on something that
it's always going to be. There's two people that everything's always going to be about them, with John Mayer and Taylor Swift. So
just those two?
They're just going to be miserable no matter what, right? Because the moment they feel the least bit shunned or disrespected or not totally happy, it's going to be a big dramatic thing with both of them.
Never.
And it'll lead to a song.
Never unhappy is Clay Travis. He joins us next on Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, It ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna lib. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Old taste of the Southern Legend.
Clay Travis with us as we welcome you back to Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. 6th and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Clay, hope you're doing well.
Doing well. How are y'all?
Doing
Excellent.
great. So, Clay, help us decide something here. We just had this conversation with Bobby Carpenter. Total hypothetical. If I came to you and I said, Clay, I've got 2 tickets to one of the Taylor Swift concerts in Nashville this weekend. Would you like to go with me? What would your response be?
You and me? Like me and like another man?
Well, yeah, like you
Just-
can go to
you
this
don't know. It's
concert.
just
like
a ticket.
I have good seats. You want to go to this concert? Doesn't have to be with anyone in
with Ro.
particular. But yes, it would be with me.
I would 100% go. I mean, I think assuming that I didn't have something else booked, like I've got stuff on Saturday, I think Friday, I've got stuff booked. But if I were free, I mean, I like big shows. So I think if the seats are good, it's a huge spectacle. I'd 100%.
You're going to buy them. You're going to buy the
Clay,
tickets then.
You totally agree with me. Hutton's on the outside where he says he would not want to go to be around that crowd. But
Yeah.
I'm like, it's Taylor Swift. It's a huge star, and it's an enormous show. So I'd like to go see it if I'm handed a ticket. I'm not going on my way to try to spend a bunch of money to go, but if you're going to give me a ticket, I'd love to go. That's my thought
But
too.
Clay, am I crazy of thinking like I don't? To me, a great concert doesn't include teenagers crying as she takes the stage, and I would be with Chad in this situation too. And I'm thinking, yeah, this is no Kenny Chesney show.
Well, look, I mean, I've been to a Taylor Swift concert before, and I actually paid to go. I mean, Laura and I went. So I don't have any problem with Taylor. I actually think she's pretty talented.
For sure.
And I've always respected the fact that she writes her own songs, or at least takes credit for writing them, right? And I think she's going to be, if she's not already, a billionaire. And so yeah, I'd 100% go.
So think about it from this perspective too. What other artist on the planet today can do what she's doing? Yeah, there are artists that can go and do multiple nights and sell out arenas. She is selling out stadiums on multiple nights and doing it within a 3-hour radius of the next stop, from Atlanta to Nashville to Cincinnati to Kansas City. I mean, across the country, she's doing this, and I mean, it is sold out in minutes, and they add other shows to it. I don't know if there's another artist on the planet that can do it today the way she's doing it.
Yeah, look, and it's not only selling out multiple nights in a stadium, which is pretty incredible in and of itself. It's also, I think, as I was talking about this with a friend yesterday, and you guys may be able to look it up on StubHub, but I think the cheapest get-in price for a lot of these concerts in Nashville is $1,000 to sit in the very upper deck. So it's not only that she's selling out the stadiums, it's that there is a monstrous demand that is not sated by the even 3 nights in the stadium. In other words, I don't know, what is that? 200,000 people nearly who will be able to go to those concerts 3 straight days in Nashville. Yet there is such demand that it's nearly $1,000 just to get in to sit at the very top of the stadium, which means in many of these stadiums, I would suspect, Taylor Swift has actually got the most lucrative event to ever occur in the stadium. And by which I mean, I don't think it's ever been a get-in price anywhere close to $1,000, even for the biggest Titans football game of all time. And they don't play that same game 3 straight days, right? So it's not only that there's a great demand, it's that the demand is in nowhere sated by 3 straight days of putting on the concert.
$940 is the cheapest get-in price right now.
And what
for
section?
one ticket.
What section?
That's upper deck. That's the last row.
$940.
Yeah.
So your question, Hutton, was what current act could demand that
Could do
level
this.
of demand for tickets and sell out big football stadiums? And someone, this is the funniest exchange we've had in our YouTube chat yet. Someone's response was Michael Jackson. My immediate response was, he is dead.
Yeah, correct.
So that would not be a good answer for that. I don't know. I don't think Michael Jackson today could sell out.
Came back from the dead. I think he would. I think it would be well received for a performance. I mean, I've seen. I don't even know who the country music. Maybe Garth Brooks, just because you've got to have like a long record of fan base to potentially sell out on any kind of level like that. Maybe Garth Brooks. I'm not sure that there's any. Beyonce, I don't think it would be anywhere near like this for 3 days. I don't think she could do it before he went crazy. I don't think Kanye West could have done it. Jay-Z, I doubt it. Like there's just not that many artists. They would have to have performed for a long time in order to have that sort of, I saw the Rolling Stones there several years ago, which was cool. And obviously they've been touring for a long time, but there just aren't very many that could even sell out a stadium, period.
So, Clay, when you're watching the NFL draft and you see Will Levis fall all the way out of the first round, and then leading into that Friday night, you realize, oh, wait, I'm a Titans fan, which you are, and the Titans could either draft Will Levis where they are or trade up and draft him. And then you see that the Titans, in fact, trade up to 33 and draft Will Levis, quarterback from Kentucky. What was your initial reaction?
I think the Titans exist in many ways to make me sad. And so, I ranked, I did not have Will Levis. He was the one guy that I didn't want the Titans to draft at quarterback because I've watched him the past 2 years and I just know how much of a disappointment I think he's likely to be in the NFL. And I get that people fall in love with big arms and they fall in love with, all the measurables that guys, sort of in the tight shirts and just the shorts without any pads, without any helmets on, the underwear workout session, so to speak, that often is the NFL draft. And I just always want to come back and say, what did you actually do on the field? And it's not only that Will Levis, I didn't think performed at a very high level. It's that he didn't look that aware of his surroundings on the field. He didn't ever, in my experience, look like an elite, quarterback in terms of being able to process everything that was going on around him. And I understand people say, well, he didn't have a good offensive line. He didn't have elite wide receiving talent, although I would push back a little bit on that. I don't think the skill position talent at Kentucky was that bad. He had great running backs. I think with Brown, he had at least one really elite wide receiver.
He came to the perfect team then, Clay. Perfect team.
Yeah. Well, he didn't throw that well under duress. And there's so many times in the NFL, as you guys know, where you have to throw from unnatural angles and you have to make decisions in complex scenarios based on what the defense is doing in front of you. And there's just nothing I saw in college that makes me believe that he's going to be able to do that. By the way, you guys mentioned YouTube. I want to give a shout out to anybody watching on YouTube. I believe you guys can look at the number of OutKick YouTube subscribers we have, but I think we're at basically 720,000 YouTube subscribers.
713,000 to be exact right now.
Okay. So we're going to, at the rate we're advancing, going to hit, 750 and then 8, 9 and get to 1 million, which is a big deal. Keep clicking like and subscribe. The YouTube growth for OutKick right now is pretty extraordinary. How rapidly we're adding people.
Clay, would you bet on Will Levis or Anthony Richardson to actually live up to the expectations of each organization's thought process of why they selected them?
Well, I think the expectation should be higher, frankly, for Anthony Richardson because he went 4th overall. But the reality is it doesn't really matter where you draft a quarterback if he ends up a stud. I mean, that's the truth. So if you draft somebody at 1, you want him to end up a stud. That's great. But ultimately, if you got Purdy in the last pick of last year's draft, but the 49ers now believe that Brock Purdy is their answer, it doesn't matter. You're going to end up having to pay somebody a lot of money regardless. That's why, to me, I would have preferred almost if the Titans had just said, hey, if you look around at the rest of the AFC, and they don't have to say this publicly, but it's pretty clear the Titans' window is closed and they're a lot better quarterbacks. So I would have been fine with them, sort of figuring out a way to get rid of Tannehill, Derrick Henry, as much as I believe Derrick Henry's a Hall of Fame back. And just saying, hey, we're going all in for Caleb Williams, basically, to try to get the number 1 overall pick and, start the rebuild process around him. They haven't done that. And it feels to me like they're kind of in that awful space where you never really want to be, where your team wins 6 to 9 games and is not that good, but not that bad. And you just kind of get stuck on that consistent wheel of mediocrity, which is where I think the Titans are and probably will be for the next several years at least.
I haven't looked at the updated odds in Vegas on the AFC and AFC Championship to Super Bowl, but where would you put Aaron Rodgers and the Jets on the list of teams with great quarterbacks in the AFC and the ranking of Super Bowl or bust mentality? Kansas City's going to be there. Cincinnati with Burrow.
All right. So,
where would you put Rodgers?
I think you can run. Yeah, I would run through it this way. I would eliminate the whole AFC South, right? We don't have any idea about C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson. Tannehill's not any good in terms of being an elite quarterback. And Trevor Lawrence, I think, has shown flashes, but I don't think he's really in the mix, right? So let's take the AFC South off the board. Let's go to the AFC North, which I think is probably so I would put, let's start AFC East, right? I would put probably Joe Burrow as the best quarterback in the AFC North, right? And then I would slot in the second spot in the AFC North, Lamar Jackson. So I would put those two guys there. And then in the AFC East, I would put Josh Allen in pretty solidly. And I'm not ranking these guys, but I'm saying Josh Allen would be one of the three best, right? And then I'm not sold on Mac Jones. Tua hasn't been able to stay healthy. And I would put Aaron Rodgers into that group, right? So that's top four. And by the way, I'm not putting Deshaun Watson in because I just, at times he's looked great, but I don't think he's there right now. And certainly Kenny Pickett with the Steelers, when I was talking about the AFC North earlier, I wouldn't put him in there, right? So I've got those four. And then I think the best division for quarterbacks, honestly, probably the AFC West. And I think you have to put Justin Herbert, certainly Patrick Mahomes. That gets us to 6. Russell Wilson historically has been there, but he was so awful last year. I'll pull him out of the equation right now. And then Jimmy Garoppolo, I've never been a believer in. So I believe Aaron Rodgers is one of the 6 best quarterbacks right now in the AFC. But again, if you wanted to be aggressive, you could add Deshaun Watson, you could add Russell Wilson based on past history. That's a lot of really good quarterbacks.
Yeah.
In the AFC. And again, Trevor Lawrence kind of floating around out there at the 8-9 spot to me, 7 maybe at the highest. So I would put Aaron Rodgers somewhere around right now, top 6. And I'm curious to see how he's going to do with this team.
They're plus 900, by the way, in Vegas. That's 4th best to win the AFC behind Chiefs, Bengals, Bills. And I wonder how many people are jumping on that right now, just based on everything they've added.
Well, I think a lot of people, Aaron Rodgers is a big name, and New York is a big market. So there likely is not a lot of value probably on Aaron Rodgers and the Jets at 9-1 because there's so much expectation. But look, the guy's won 4 MVPs. If he plays at an MVP level, certainly I think on defense, the Jets are good enough to be able to be a legit contender in the AFC East and then a contender in the AFC overall. I think personally it's going to be really hard to get into that top 3 right now, which I would say you can put them in whatever order you want. But Mahomes, Burrow, and Josh Allen, I think, have to be the top 3 quarterbacks pretty much in the AFC every year. And Aaron Rodgers, 39 years old, maybe he can contend with those 3. They'll have to play it at a really elite level to do so.
Clay, your friend from Vanderbilt Law School, Matt Ishbia, who owns the Phoenix Suns and Phoenix Mercury.
Justin Ishbia is my friend. He and his brother Matt own the Phoenix Suns.
I gotcha. Well, either way, both the Ishbia brothers, I thought, with a really cool move. Diamond Sports Group files for bankruptcy, and they decide they're going to put every game on local TV, and it cost them millions of dollars to do this. But they did this for the fans and to grow the product. That's not something you're seeing a lot of pro sports owners do right now in terms of TV deals. I thought it was a smart move by those guys.
Yeah, I talked to Justin some about that. I mean, so Justin was my law school classmate. Matt, his brother, I also know pretty well. And Matt runs the mortgage company. Justin is a really brilliant private equity guy. So he has been buying and selling companies, and I've been fortunate to be a small part of the monstrous amounts of dollars that he's raised for his private equity funds over the years. But but yeah, like I think we're moving towards a really interesting era, and I've written and talked about this for a long time, where the cable and satellite bundle is collapsing. That is, I imagine that a lot of people watching this, for instance, on YouTube right now, they may not, and certainly even Twitter as well, they may not have in any way at all a existing cable and satellite package. And if that is true, as I likely think it is, one of the things that's now rising in prominence is, ABC, NBC, Fox, and all of the local affiliates, CBS, that are out there being able to produce much larger audiences than a rapidly declining cable and satellite bundle. And so I think you're going to see, as these regional sports networks are collapsing and the economic pressure continues to rise on the cable channels, I think what you're likely to see is more and more sports either moving direct to streaming, which presents some challenges, or going back to traditional television. And I'll just point this out. The NFL only allows Thursday night football and Monday night football to air on a non-free television network. And that is because they want to get the largest possible audience. And so far, the Super Bowl has always aired on the largest free, platform channels. And by the way, congrats to Fox for setting an all-time record for most viewed Super Bowl. I believe it's the most viewed television program ever in the game between the Eagles and the Chiefs this past Super Bowl in February.
Clay, is it a good business decision for the Big 12 to try to tap into Mexico for international games, or is it a waste of time?
Hold on, I'm retweeting this interview so people can watch it. I think it's probably mostly show. I don't know that there's that much value to be gained from any sports network going into foreign countries. Any sports league, college football, I should say. I mean, I think there's a value for the NFL if they decided to have an international team one day, or the NBA, or Major League Baseball, I believe, is playing in Mexico right now. Those things can make sense because you might have a franchise one day in those countries. And I do think it makes a lot of sense then to be sampling your product for those audiences and helping get people aware of your brand, of your sport. I don't think it's likely that there's ever going to be a Mexican football team, for instance, playing in the Big 12 or anything like that. Internationally, I saw where the Pac-12, which is closer to Asia than anywhere else, when you look at the number of international students that you get from some of these wealthy foreign countries, and you can charge them a lot more money. So whether it's China, whether it's Japan, the Koreas, wherever people have money to spend, I think that can make sense in terms of branding your university on an academic level. But from a sports level, I think it's mostly show.
Clay Travis, OutKick founder, has been our guest. Joins us each Wednesday at this time. Clay, always appreciate it, man, and hopefully we'll see you around here at Old Smoky and Yeehaw over the next couple days or so.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate you all and hope everybody has a good day.
Yep, same to you. There's Clay Travis. Always great to have him on. Great conversation as usual. His reaction did not surprise me on the Will Levis discussion.
No, nor did his reaction on Taylor Swift surprise me. Clay's a man who likes big events, big shows, so he'd go.
He did once sit in a hot tub with you for a photo op.
He did. He's been to Taylor Swift too, as he said. I've not been.
Same. I'm not saying I wouldn't enjoy the show. I just wouldn't enjoy what are they, Swifties?
Swifties. I did take my college girlfriend to a Justin Timberlake / Christina Aguilera show in the early aughts.
But you're in that. I would have gone to that.
That was lots of people younger than me, though, and I was in college
Really?
in that time. Oh, yeah. That was at that concert. It was in that time, just like what you're expecting with a lot of teenagers.
Yeah.
It was all pre-teens, teenagers at the show.
Yeah, I'm thinking like the TRL era would have been all over that show.
Yeah, but I think that, college age, that you were probably not cool if you liked
Christina
by
Aguilera?
that point, or Justin Timberlake.
Oh. Well.
I celebrate all boy bands, so I don't understand the stigma, but
I'm a Timberlake fan too.
There
What
are
happened
others
to
that are
Christina
not as
Aguilera?
secure as I am that, didn't like it.
Coming up, we take a look at the Hollywood writers who are going on strike and how that will impact Chad's life. He's following this, I'm sure.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Straight ahead on Hot Mic.
Primary complaint is when you let somebody cross the street while you're driving and they purposely take their time when they see that they are waiting for you crossing the street. That is my primary complaint, and it drives me crazy.
My primary complaint is people who talk on speakerphone in public.
People that chew too loud.
Number 1 pet peeve, telemarketers. Number 2 pet peeve, when people don't understand the menu that they're serving. Number 3 pet peeve, when people ask for change but they have no quarters. Number 4 pet peeve, parallel parking.
My primary complaint is I can't just go to a bar and have a nice quiet beer. There's all this live music every freaking where. Like, I'm just trying to go to a bar, relax, have a beer, watch the game, but no, we gotta have these guitar players and these bands. Why can't I just hang out and just relax, have a beer, and watch the Memphis Grizzlies? I mean, is that too much to ask?
I do not appreciate or condone anybody that litters. I think you got to keep your planet clean. It's turning your nose up to everybody that has to clean your up with littering.
My primary complaint would be wobbly tables at restaurants.
Another pet peeve I have is no courtesy flushing. No one believes in that. I believe in it. Thank you. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in. Excuse me. Another pet peeve I have is when people have AirPods in and they're singing louder so everyone can hear what they're not supposed to listen to.
When people eat smelly food on the airplane.
Dishes left in the sink.
My primary complaint is when I'm out to eat with somebody and they bite their fork as they are putting the fork in their mouth to eat.
When people bite their fork and scrape that, and when they're eating dinner, you can hear like it's like nails on a chalkboard. Hell no.
My primary complaint is when people complain about me when I bite my fork.
Those folks who are in the airport talking on their cell phone very loud so everybody else can hear what they're saying even though we really don't care.
My primary complaint are drivers who do not stop on a pedestrian crosswalk. Period.
My last pet peeve is that when people text you, they text you that they're busy, or if you call them, they answer and say they can't talk. Either way, just don't respond. You can't text me, don't text me back. And if you can't answer the phone, don't answer the phone to tell me you can't talk.
So there's a writer's strike in Hollywood. Some 11,500 writers striking for the first time since 2007. That one lasted 100 days. Welcome back. Hot mic across the OutKick network. 100-day strike. Seth Meyers, who backs the Writers Association, is saying that what they're asking for is not unreasonable. Yeah, they want more money, of course. Most of the series here, 20 episodes a season is what it used to be. Now it's, 8 to 12 episodes a season, if that.
Yeah.
And they're saying that impacts them. Plus, they're worried about artificial intelligence, which is intriguing. And it's going to impact shows like Saturday Night Live, Jimmy Fallon, Colbert,
all
immediately,
the late night shows.
Right? And then it would take a while to actually impact the big screen.
Yeah. The hope is it'd be over sooner rather than later. But all the shows that are on or planned are done, that are coming out soon. But
all the Spider-Man 4s and everything else.
We're going to see this 6 months from now. You know, there may be a little bit of a dark period of no new content 6 months from now. I felt like this was something that happens like with the Olympics. Every 4 years there's a writer's strike. I was surprised it was 16 years ago was the last one. I remember it well when it happened, but I thought it was way sooner than 16 years ago. Time is getting away from
They are saying that the ascendant, this is from the New York Times, the ascendance of streaming services and the explosion of television production have eroded their working conditions. And they're striking on behalf of the survival of the writing as a profession, as a stake. It is at stake in this negotiation.
What would happen
Artificial intelligence is what caught me on this.
Well, that's scary. The whole thing about what they can do now, and not having artists and creators is a scary thing. If a robot and artificial intelligence can now write shows, books, everything else, which they can, it's pretty frightening. What if I crossed the picket line and decided to write a show for Netflix and pitch it right now? I've thought about this. When a writer's strike happens, what if you and I came up with a really good idea and pitched it to streamers and said, in 6 months, you're going to have nothing. We will take half of what these other writers will take, and we want our show on whatever streamer we pitch it to.
What if you crossed the line and said...
And then did that, and it was good, and they're like, okay,
we have the 12 best comics who are not that's not their full-time profession, right?
Yeah.
And they're going to write for SNL.
Yeah. But I just... my point is, it's not every writer that's striking. There are amateur writers out there who could now pitch material to streamers.
Yeah, good.
And how bad would it look, though, if the streamers or the networks were like, hey, we are open for business. If you've got a script, if you've got a spec you want to send in or whatever, a treatment, send it our way and we'll look at it. Now's the time. You can get your show on this network or on this streamer. What would happen if they just opened up for business?
I mean, what would happen if we went to the AI website, ChatGPT, and just typed in our idea, had the technology write it for us, and we submit that.
We can do better. The human brain will always create better.
Honestly, I think it's a lot like songwriting. Some of the dumbest songs become hits. You just repeat the same word over and over again. It doesn't take much of a thought process anymore.
They could create a lot based on everything that's been out there before, which is what humans do also to an extent.
And it's what Hollywood's doing now.
Yeah.
Which I hate. I'm tired of the Batman.
Yeah, but at least there's not robots and AI writing it.
That we know
it's people writing it based on other ideas or writing sequels.
I'm fascinated by why they included this in their complaint.
I'm for people having jobs. I'm very standard on this. I don't like AI taking humans' jobs. So I hope they get it figured out with the writers. But if not, Hutton and I are here to write a spec script for you.
We could write
your streamer.
Comedy or drama?
Both.
Thriller?
Dramedy. It will be both. Comedy and... This is the start of our pitch. Picture it. Comedy, drama. We got it all.
We bring it back tomorrow, 3 p.m. Eastern. Hope you'll join us.